I don't know if you noticed, but I leaned back this time, so my windscreen is dry.
Oh, right.
It is dry today.
How's that voice?
Welcome to the Unorthodox Film Podcast. Oh, listen to all them. I might as well just pour mine. Are you jealous right now, listener? Driving to work. We've got our Frosties. You've got your coffee, or whatever it is that you are enjoying while listening to us. Welcome to Unorthodox Film Podcast, where we discuss movies that meet specific genres, topics, or scenarios, and we recommend movies that we enjoy in hopes that we introduce our listeners to movies that they haven't seen or heard of.
Yes.
With our guests, we discuss movies that we have seen before and engage in conversation based on our memory and recollection of our enjoyment of those titles. At the end of each episode, we roll a dice and select one of the recommended titles to watch together. We will then discuss that film on our next episode with fresh eyes and determine whether the film holds up, as well as explore the film in a more detailed and critical discussion. I am Bradford Clark, and with me is my co-host, Joseph Quick. Say hi, Joe.
What's up, y'all?
And tonight we've got a returning guest with us, our very first returning guest, Chris Warren. If you would remember back on the Heist episode, right? You recommended Heist movies with us. It was Chris's fault we watched Inception.
Yep.
Welcome back, Chris.
Wow. Hola.
I love Inception. Watch your mouth.
Fuck off.
Last week we made recommendations.
Hello.
Last week we made recommendations for dogmatic themes or faith-driven plots. We had on our show Trevor Stevens, who made quite a few different really good selections, one of which we ended up selecting randomly, Apocalypto from 2006. So that'll be the movie that we watched fresh today and we will be discussing at the top of our show. So if you have not seen Apocalypto, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and say I recommend that you do, why don't you go ahead and skip ahead about 20 minutes or so.
We're going to spoil it.
Because we're going to spoil it. And then return back with us when we discuss horror movies. We're going to make selections, each of us tonight. We're going to pick 12 movies, 4 apiece, in the genre of horror. We're going to go basic bitch today, and we're just going to go horror.
Yeah, we're going to try to keep out the thriller, try to stay away from suspense-driven.
Well, so I think the way that I see this is like if you need some way to find your way into horror, this could be like a nice introduction to, and maybe with some wilds. You know, maybe we'll throw some level 1s at you. Maybe we'll throw some level 12s at you. We'll see.
We always come out of left field one way or another.
Might throw a crit. I don't know. There might be a 20 out there.
Hey, man, crit it up. Crit it up. We're all about to die on this show. So, Chris, over to you, man. Welcome back. Thank you for, we obviously didn't scare you enough the first time. You came back, and
Here I am.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Our discussion last time on heist movies was actually really phenomenal.
It was fun. I loved
All
it.
the way from Houston.
Yes, he is joining us. He's in town working on some things. So what have you been up to? I think we recorded about a year ago last time, so it actually has been a while, even though it hasn't been a year since they heard it. But.
Yeah, it's been a while. Let's see. So
you been busy?
Kind of. I mean, it was slow for a while, with all
Same
the
with all of us,
stuff, all that fun shit. That was a lot of fun. But no, then all of a sudden it started picking up, and you and I kicked off the season with the one in Kentucky, man.
Heck yeah.
And then it's just been blowing and going since then. I was in Oklahoma for 2 months. Yeah. So that was nuts. Yeah.
Home on the range.
Obviously, can't talk too much about any of them because
no, of course not. I won't ask you to.
Anything about the deer and the buffalo on the range?
Home.
It's where the antelope play.
I hear that's what I hear.
Well, since you don't have anything to say about that, even though you've been there, let's talk about Apocalypto.
Yeah, how about that?
Mel Gibson's second feature following, I don't think it was his second total, because I do believe he did one before Passion, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that at some point tonight.
But this is
the one following Passion of the Christ, and it's about Mayans
people.
Yeah. So who wants to start us off? I kind of missed the beginning. I had a rehearsal I had to be to. The boys were kind enough to pause it at about 37 minutes, catch me up, and
kind of hit
the ride
crucial
just
part
went
at
with
the
it.
end of Act 1 where I was like, this is a good stopping point. It's easy enough to explain, but what happens after this is too much to not rewind.
Now, granted, just so everybody's aware, I had never seen Apocalypto.
I was going to get to that, yeah. So let's start there then. So, Chris, this was a first watch for you.
Yep.
So let's get first impressions.
First impressions, like as a whole?
Yeah, as a whole. Like when the movie ended, what were some of your first thoughts?
The first thought that came to my head is it was good. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. However, I do feel like it was a little long in the tooth, if you want my honest opinion. It's good. And it keeps your attention, but it's just one of those where you're like, okay. And it's like, there's some movies you watch out there that are like 2.5 hours long. It's like, it doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. By the end of this, I was like, this feels like it's been 3.
Yeah. When you had said that after the credits had rolled, I had kind of stopped you there because that was one of the first thoughts I had after sitting down. Now, this was the second time I'd seen it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you get that way, just like, when you're going someplace, I don't know, that's a bad analogy. Regardless, sometimes the second time through, because you know what's coming or whatever it may be, it feels slower. But it's been a long time since I've seen it, so none of those things were really applicable. But I was feeling like, man, this scene is holding a while, and it was, like you said, just at the tail end of the first act. So, I guess there's still a lot of building. When I personally had that first thought of it being too long, I can't speak for Chris.
Yeah, and you had missed a good portion of the building and still felt it was too long.
Felt it was a little, there was just, not that what was happening wasn't important, but then I also feel like because there was a language barrier, maybe that
You're
extended play, it was evoking a little different emotion that maybe if it were in English, more dialogue would have played.
And not only that, we watched it on Tubi free with ads, and the ads do
ads don't help. Ads don't help.
Yeah.
But then again, we're also now in a generation where ads are not a thing, or we got used to them not being a thing, and now they're back, and
How
we're all
dare
like,
you
"Oh
bring
God!"
them back?
You know what I mean?
Even though most of my money's made through commercials.
Exactly. That's why I can't.
So, Joe, what did you feel about the pacing?
I mean, I've always enjoyed the movie.
So this has been multiple watches for you.
Yeah, it was one of my like $5 bin finds, and I was unaware when I bought it really that it was Mel Gibson. Didn't really like. I'm from a generation where Mel Gibson's fucking Mad Max and The Man with No Face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he went through
Nice
some shit.
job.
Yeah.
The Man with No Face was dope.
Good fucking movie.
It's a great movie.
But, like, people go through hard times in life, really, right? Like, so I wasn't judging anybody. Like, I never saw Passion of the Christ. I have no fucking interest.
I have
read
no
the
interest in
Bible,
seeing
you
that.
know, I'm not a Christian.
Yeah, I can say I've seen it.
Yeah, I have nothing against it. But for me, that was more like, oh, this is something more on my alley that I can see him as a director in.
Right.
Sure. Makes sense.
And so I was exposed to it by a friend of mine, not in theaters or anything. Like, he had the movie, and I was like, oh, I like this. The cinematography was great. The storyline was really, I mean, a little bit, like you said.
It's simple, but I think, and I think we should elaborate on the story, so I don't want to take away from you.
Yeah, but it was. It was a little too drawn out. It could have been more pragmatic instead of like indulgent, like it was, because of how grandiose the cinematography, the art design, like. So it kind of allowed for that, but at the same time, it was a bit too much in places.
Yeah. So
I feel like they mix genres too. It's supposed to be Mayans, and there's some Aztec culture mixed in there a little bit, but it's just.
I mean, I don't think it was an educational video. It was a platform to just launch off this story of, like, using ancient indigenous POV to tell a story.
And so don't get me wrong, I feel like the story is very strong.
I like the story. It's just
yeah.
So what I was going to say about the story is, I think overall it's very simple, which is not a bad thing. I think stories can be complicated, stories can be simple. An example of that was one of my more recent watches of The Empire Strikes Back, which we can all say, is part of the epic Star Wars series. But if you really break down what actually happens in Empire Strikes Back, nothing fucking happens. And I'm not trying, I'm oversimplifying that, but if you really, and I don't want to take 20 minutes and elaborate it, we've all seen it, but if you really take a minute and think about it, like, not a lot actually happens. If you were to I could give you a 3-sentence summary and you'd be like, oh, okay, well, that oversimplifies it. Yeah. Because so many other small things and activities connect that simple plot line to make it what you remember as an epic movie.
Correct.
Yeah.
So as an entertainment piece, it is still well done. I'm not being derogatory on it, but if you just write a through line for the plot, it's simple.
Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. Like, honestly, like, the Nazis find it and they die and it gets locked in a vault. Like, Does he help them find it? Sure, but if he hadn't interfered, they would have found it anyway, and he wouldn't need his help. Like, he's not really consequential, but cinematically, the story, like, there's nothing without him. Like, that's what.
So with this one, if I could, I think, and again, I missed the first little bit. So if I miss something, we've got a small indigenous tribe with our Jaguar Paw, who is our lead, and they are then attacked by a much larger, stronger, more societal driven. Like they came from a much larger type of society, but they took them over, then took them capture, and then probably a good hour and 40 minutes is them walking and getting to
the first 40 minutes is like the capture.
Okay.
Getting to know the tribe and then the capture.
Then the next, but
there is a good hour.
There's an extended period of walking,
and how far they came.
And then once they walk, once they're there, there's a good 15, 20 minutes of exploring the city as they walk through the city. And none of this is like, if I'm describing it and it sounds terrible, that's because like there's so much more that I can't explain happening on the screen. But if I'm just summarizing the plot line, if I'm just saying like, okay, let's give it a basic, then the sacrifice happens where they make their religious, offers to their gods, which is where, Trevor linked it into, their society was strongly linked to their beliefs in the sun gods.
Yeah, it was
when
very
the eclipse happens,
theology driven.
That's when our Jaguar Paw is able to, he has a nice miraculous moment. Then they set them free. So at this point, the story could be over and he survives because he didn't get slaughtered. And then it's a chase sequence from there. And that's the story. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Well, they don't set him free, remember? So they take him to go get basically slaughtered.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, to get slaughtered. Yeah, they let them, like, they unbound him.
Yeah.
They unbound him, yes, because he became sport.
Correct.
And then, so that was what, five little things, and there, that's not conversations at the restaurant. That's not this.
It's not a complicated story arc.
But what was complicated was all of the feelings and emotions that were conveyed by so many of the cast members.
Yeah, just through like the eyes, the facial expressions.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moments where like they are emoting without using words, which is fantastic in my opinion. Sometimes I think that's some of the best work an actor can do.
100%
is
agree.
To say something without actually saying it. And even when they were speaking, I didn't feel like I was lost from their dialogue, if that makes sense. Like,
no, and I don't feel like the dialogue drove the story at all.
Correct. Not like hearing it in English. I don't feel like that drew me away.
Well, if anything, the dialogue drove the hints of comedy.
Yeah,
that were in
because there were some moments of that for sure. But like, it just felt like. Granted, I get it. We have to establish his character. We have to establish who he is. Also, like, we have to establish the torment these guys are doing to him for the whole thing of the purpose of this curse that he gets. They throw at the people that are taking him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When the young girl with the sickness.
Right, the bad omen. Yeah, the bad omen. So it's like, I get that, but at the same time, I feel like we could have gotten to that bad omen a little faster.
I agree.
We didn't need to see
like
so much torment.
The choking sequence on the ridge was far less terrifying than I think Mel wanted it to be because of how extended it was. Because the guy was already, like, you already knew he was forgone, right? Like, it wasn't going to happen for him. And now it's like, oh, is he going to take all of them with him? Well, no, because the lead is strapped to him. So, and we get that hero moment. Like, that's what it was there for. We get Jaguar Paw was able to save him.
Long.
But it just extended too late. In fact, a faster cut might have made it feel more impending.
Correct.
Yeah, because it gives you more of that adrenaline. Like, good. Because that relief is really when the adrenaline hits. Right?
Yeah.
The longer you hold it, the more you're able to analyze it. So then you've thought about it too much to really. Was it just him? It was a team effort. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Just it loses something.
Totally. I completely agree with that. There were some definite moments of like, okay, did we need this? You know what I mean? Like, was this necessary to the story? And I'm not faulting it because, granted, there is stuff in some of those moments. I'm like, well, shit, that's great. I love that. But like, I don't know if that if it helps progress the story. Like if I was to lose that piece, me being a first time watcher, if I was to lose that piece, would that have hindered
Right.
the movie
Like
at
I
all?
feel so the running time being 2 hours and 19 minutes, I genuinely believe that 19 minutes could have been trimmed with nothing lost.
100%. I agree with that.
And I think that's a fair trim.
It's a fair trim. Like taking it down to 2 hours, absolutely. I feel like the story still would have been there. It still would have been as strong. The ending would have been as strong, like him running for his family and the whole thing of him being basically like this is my forest, the things he says, you know what I mean? And like the fact that he's to protect the forest, but also his family, whom, by the way, at the beginning of the movie, spoiler alert, he literally just leaves in a well.
Right.
And the
pregnant wife and his young boy.
Correct. And he's literally just praying for it not to rain because it's supposed to be dry season.
Right. And then that clock starts when it starts raining and you're like, okay.
Now this is
and like, I don't know that I would trim anything from that third act. No. So like for me, some of the stuff in the first and second act could have just been tighter. And for me personally, would have made the third act more impactful because 100%. I, as a viewer, was a little exhausted once I got to the chase because we were at such a walking pace for so long.
Now all of a sudden we're just running,
right?
You know, which I could think of one thing in that third act that I could have absolutely lost and had been fine with, and we all kind of made a crack at it, you know. And whenever he gets the poison arrows, he shoots the guy that's already dying. Like, why are you wasting that? Like, why aren't you shooting somebody that is stronger? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those moments where you're just like, did we really need that? Like,
yeah, because it turned a cool moment less cool,
right?
When you were like, okay, well, you just shot the injured horse, bro.
Right. It's like, what is this? Yeah. And I mean, like, honestly, when he rolls the palm, like whatever leaf it is, palm leaf, whatever it is, when he rolls it up and he like makes this blowgun.
Blow dart,
yeah. It's like fucking awesome. This dude is making anything happen.
He's running around with these.
Right. So it was a little anticlimactic to choose that victim.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like we could have lost. He could have just, like, honestly, that first time we saw him kind of, you know, we could have just seen him collapse. They just keep going without him. Yeah. And then he picks another target.
And that was a theme. So that was something that I did notice as far as character development.
I was very upset at how much effort went to killing the lame one.
The lame one. Yeah. Several times throughout the movie, the lame one got beat up. Mm-hmm. But in those examples, seeing so there were two things that I was able to get out of this. One, we're watching something that, when was the Spaniards? At 1700, right? Probably around 1700.
Yeah.
So well before our established society.
Right.
And so seeing some of the relations that we still have with people. So the connections in the eyes when someone was about to die, or when they came into the city and they're watching the woman, have no value. Like the way that
the mother-in-law,
the way that there was concerns, like relatable concerns to regular life in this completely different lifestyle that this tribe lived, away from everything. But there was still, those simple, basic human qualities that we forget, or maybe we don't forget. Like as a society, I speak wholly that we see ourselves so different when really we're the same.
All this strife. He finally saves his family, but they're still chasing him. And then they hit the coast and they see
white men,
a common enemy.
Yeah,
and they're like, okay, we all got.
We're done.
Yeah.
You know what? Our differences.
Yeah,
we don't
shake hands. We good.
Yeah, you killed our boss, so we're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean at that point,
that's why I was it kind of shocked me too when they kept chasing. I'm like, the boss is dead. Like, why are y'all? What do you think you're gonna do?
Well, and most of those guys were
sure.
his sons. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was gonna say. There's probably
he was prouder.
I think there's a difference in pride and loyalty in that
culture,
lifestyle, and culture. Yeah,
which makes sense.
Because he said my son to several of them, but like one of them he doted on. That was one of the first ones that died.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it was like everyone that died before him or after, like they were all trying to make up for it.
Right.
And then they were on a vengeance after Daddy was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was some really good callbacks, right? So like, And that's one of the things I definitely think he achieved really well was like the callback to Useless from the joke at the beginning with the infertile husband.
Yeah, there was a lot of good foreshadowing.
That was a great throwback to the mom, callback to the mom to make her feel horrible for doing what she did. And then the son watching the father die, and then the reverse of that, now father watches son die. I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
And God, there was another. The callback for when they, at the very opening of the movie, once again, this is a big spoiler, when they kill the boar, right, or the tapir.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, fucking the boss gets the same treatment.
Yeah, when you see that bone fly, you're like, oh, here it comes.
Here it comes. This guy's
he
gonna
wins.
Get it hard, yeah. So, overall, I think the movie was really great. I think it still holds up really well, which I was very impressed about. For a 2006 movie, there's quite a few 2006 movies I can go back and watch now and go, ooh.
So 2000, mid 2000s was this weird transitional period. You know, we were transitioning from film stock to digital. We were going from practical to CGI. We were going from having lived on locations for a while to returning to the studios a little bit to explore with green screen and digital mapping and such. And that was actually going to be a question that I was going to ask you guys. Did you notice at all? Like, I assume the hole where his wife and child were was probably on a stage. Yeah. But could you tell the difference when they were running through live forest or... I really couldn't.
Hardly. When they had actual, like, livestock or, like, jungle animals, yes.
Mm-hmm. So that tiger, according to IMDb, Mel Gibson claims that tiger actually chased Jaguar Paw, but he was on a lead, and it couldn't get him because the lead would stop him.
That makes sense.
And his reply was, well, can't train jaguars.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure. but there was like there had to be some with like when they were fighting and like.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the jaguar never actually jumped on the guy and bit him.
Correct. Correct.
That's what I'm talking about. I could tell when mostly the monkeys.
Okay.
Interesting. Now, the jaguar moment, I thought they did really well because it's so fast when he kills the guy.
Yeah, it was
Mel
well
did
done.
this thing.
Yeah, you don't, but
I saw it. Sure. Not everyone is going to see that.
Sure.
He like disoriented you by just throwing the camera into the leaves at certain times where it was just dismorphed and
the way it was shot, like the way he would like draw you in, like so any disbelief you could catch was just so fast and just beautifully done. Like you felt like you were in the jungle. You felt like you were part of these people and you were being wronged as they're like it was really well done.
I definitely feel like also in a lot of the running and a lot of the movement action pieces, they were playing with shutter speeds. They were playing. They were definitely making things more blurry. More.
Did you take notice whether or not it was a lot of handheld or dollies? I almost didn't pay attention.
That's how immersive it was.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention.
Because it was a mixture of all of them.
It most definitely was.
A lot of handheld. And a lot of, like he said, mixing with frame rates. Like you would jump from a high octane action scene to like in mid jump, it'd go slow motion. Yeah. Like it was really well planned out.
Well, and then the other thing too is like the only time I think I ever remember noticing when it was handheld was like the very first scene when they're chasing the tapir. You could definitely tell because they're running with the hog or the boar. That was the only moment that I think I noticed that it was handheld because they were running with it. And you could definitely see it was very shaky. But then after that, my brain just kind of got used to it. Maybe I don't know. I stopped paying attention to it and just kind of went with the story. You know,
something I recalled saying on the episode when it was brought up, when it had been 2006, almost 20 years since I'd seen the movie, was that I recall it being shot very intimately with very little extreme wides and so forth. And I think my memory served right. Like, it's not that there weren't some wides for some world building, but it didn't live in it. He didn't live in it like, say, like if Spielberg shot it, it would have been a little bit more grandiose as far as the open eye of the camera.
It's like look at Indy and look at Indy. Like when you are establishing a location, you see the world.
Right. All the way to the mountains.
This wasn't like, it was still wide.
When we came into the town, but you only saw like 3 or 4 huts back,
Correct.
as opposed to 15 of them.
Yeah,
And how
the
deep?
only
But
really
the people that
true
filled the
grand
street
wides were-
told you that there obviously are more huts.
It was a busy place. Less
The only true grand wides when we were at the top of the pyramid and you saw other pyramids and the people below.
Right.
That was only true, like,
And then
expansive
I think
wide.
the hunting sequence where they set them free after the sacrifice, and they ran out into the sport venue and were serpentining.
Yeah,
Because we stayed back here, so you had to see the wide, because at this point it was just a hunting shot.
Yeah, but I still consider
duck
that a
hunt.
standard wide, like not those expansive Spielberg type wides. You only got like 2 or 3 of those.
But I think I think he could have done that. Like there's no, I don't think, looking at the budget and what he had.
He
that there
could
was
have,
any- And I think it was I respect the choice.
I think it was a choice.
Right, yeah.
I think it
I
was a
respect the choice.
Because a lot of that stuff was built practically. That's why they were able to pull off those few expansive wides at the top of the pyramid. But he didn't overuse it. He didn't abuse it. He didn't push it to be larger than it needed to be because he had the budget.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Overall, I recommend it.
Worked.
It holds together. I thought the music was fun. I can't really say memorable, but one listen doesn't really necessarily make memorable.
No, but it was definitely a score for the film. Like
It was appropriate. It
worked.
It moved. It helped move the pace. You know, it helped keep things going.
Yeah,
but
the cinematography and the sound design really helped the story because you said the story was simple, and at some points it was a little dragging, but it looked so good and you felt so into it.
and the performances, many performances were so
sound
good.
design, I've always said, is the key element to immersion. You know what I mean? It can look beautiful. It sounds shit. I don't believe it.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, like, to be real, there are so many movies out there that could be simpler. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And be way more entertaining.
Yeah.
When you start
to get too convoluted,
so many things, it gets convoluted, right? And it's
right. Like I think we spent just enough time with the wife and the baby. Only so much could happen. We had to check in with them. We didn't even worry about, because I can't tell how long they were gone. They walked all over the place, but then he ran it in the afternoon. So this could be less than a week. It could be 2 days. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
They didn't starve.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But ultimately, the motivation was racing the storm.
Correct.
Because they're sacrificing people trying to get rain.
Yeah, that is
crops. And at the crack of it, he's like, please don't rain. As soon as he put his family in there, he was like, please don't rain because you hear thunder coming because they're near the coast.
Right.
And then immediately being moved away. It couldn't have been more than a day and a half.
I was going to say that is interesting to think about, because I do remember there being one night, but that's right after they burn the village and they leave. And then it's a whole lot of days.
They sleep one time on their journey.
Yeah, well, that's that moment, and then it's a long day. Then they get to the city. Shit, I don't think it ever went back to night. I mean, we get the eclipse, but I don't think it ever actually went back. I think it might. I think he's right. I think it might be a span of 2 actual days.
Okay.
Well, no, it is so boar kill, right, or tapir.
So 3 days.
So tapir is. That's day one.
Right, but like once they're imprisoned, how many days? 2 days. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fair amount of time, so they're not going to starve.
They wake up, like he said, boar hunt.
Night, they sleep.
Celebration, night, and then
they
in
wake
the morning,
up, ambush.
He's like the only person awake and pillage.
Yep.
The ambush.
And then they get hauled off.
A whole day of trip, and they sleep one time on that trip because he has a dream.
And then it's a long day into night. Right? Because it turns night when No,
they walk into the city. They get the bad omen.
It's a long day.
It's the eclipse, not the night.
Yeah, that's a long
They go through
day.
a whole day of travel, but they're on sticks, not running. Right.
Right, but even the chase, all that is one day.
Yeah.
Like, because even when we see the conquistadors or whatever they are, it's still day.
Yep.
Jesus, I didn't even realize how long that
stressful.
day was.
It was a stressful afternoon.
There might be. Yeah. Did he not sleep in the tree after?
Oh yes, he did when he escaped.
When he
escaped. So yeah,
after the Jaguar, there was another.
Day.
Yeah.
There's the 4th day, which introduces the Jaguar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because remember, you were like, oh, who the fuck are these people with torches running at night?
Yeah, that's right.
How are you ever going to find your prey?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a 4th day.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Any last closing thoughts on
script days there?
Apocalypto?
It was brilliantly shot. The lighting was amazing. The cinematography, the art design, just the commitment to the period that the actors had. Because I would not want that amount of fucking white shit or blue shit or whatever they had to wear.
Right. Yeah.
Some of those headdresses.
I mean, speaking of that, like I think wardrobe did an amazing job. I mean, there were
so one of the things that because there was time in the scenes, I had time to really look at some of the garb and the armor and think deeply into it.
Aztec jade on the stuff.
Yeah,
the tattoos.
That's what bothered me because that's Aztec jade, not Mayan jade. You know,
right.
Anyway, I digress. Right. But yes, beautiful.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
I loved the costuming.
No, the costuming was great. The wardrobe,
jewelry was great.
All that. I mean, that whole moment in that city was very immersive. Very.
So
you felt like you were.
It's lime. They were covered in lime. That's what they were mining.
That was gypsum.
No, I know it was. I was reading on it.
Oh, it was in the.
It was lime.
Okay.
Yeah, which is highly toxic. So
well, gypsum.
You would see a lot of the people that were because they're mining that lime and it.
And they were using it as plaster to build the stone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
It's crazy. It's like I said, it's just overall I think Mel achieved his goal. You know what I mean? I think it was a great story. I think he achieved what he wanted to achieve. I've got no complaints. I would recommend it. I don't know. So to be quite honest, though, I don't know if it's a second watch for me. Like, I just don't know if
it's been 20 years for me, dude.
Yeah, I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those where I'm like, I would have to carve out some time.
I'll put it right up there with The Deer Hunter. Glad I watched it once.
Yeah, it's a dedication because if you're not ready to sit down, you could fall asleep to this. It is.
Oh, easily.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some
chanting,
it's a little bit like pulling weight sometimes. Like they are on screen, which is either to be relatable or put you to sleep. I mean, however you are as a viewer, Mel made a decision. It was what it was. I'm glad I watched it. I am happy to recommend it, but I'm with Chris that it's not something you're going to... I mean, here's the thing. That's not for everybody. You know, Joe was in a situation where he loved watching it. So we're all going to be a little bit different. But I think as a general recommendation, this is probably glad I watched it. I'll probably mention it to other people. But I don't need to see it again.
No.
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated with the culture of tribal life being ended by
like I said, there's
takeover.
It's
and
niche.
Stuff like that. Yeah,
it's really what
it's
it is.
Very niche.
It's niche. So whether you fit the niche or not, general recommendation. It's a single watch. Probably, I recommend that you watch it.
It's a great flick. Yeah,
absolutely.
May not be for you, but you should watch it.
I agree.
Well done.
Do you guys hear that? I think it's time for us to talk about some horror movies. So let's lay out the guidelines. What are we doing tonight? So I was told that we can't do... I'm things like it sounds like Seven, not a horror movie. But I wouldn't call it a horror movie anyways. But a horror movie. So I guess if it's scary, and I mean, what would you, Joe, knock off a list? What do I need to start erasing here before we start talking?
Ooh, okay. I mean, it is on my list, but it probably was going to go to honorable mentions.
Oh, you don't need to mention specific titles, but
okay. What do
just characteristics of a movie. What are you trying to not
horror movie?
I mean, horror movie. If it's a scary, it's got to be. I mean, that's an open genre.
We're not doing gore porn. We're not doing guts and blood is okay, right?
So I mean, I guess if we're not doing gore porn, give me an example of gore porn that you wouldn't consider.
I'm gonna let Chris on that.
It was your rule, bro. We're trying to figure this out so we know what we can mention.
My rule. Chris and I
Who
were
said no gore porn? Did you say no gore porn?
We said it together.
We said it together.
All right, then what the fuck do you mean, bro?
So
to give me a gore porn movie that's not horror.
What? Huh?
What's not scary about gore porn?
No, it's not that.
It's
just we didn't want to put that on the list, essentially.
Right. So give me an example so I don't put it on the list.
Narrow it down. So that was part of our narrow.
Okay, so it was on my list. Now, I'd like to, since it was there, I had a really good discussion plan for it. What about that's not scary?
No, it's not that it's not scary. Hold on, time out. It's not that it's not scary. I think it's more of a situation. I'm going to let you handle that explanation.
Yeah, it's gore for the sake of gore, not
But I think that's a misunderstanding of the movie.
Fair.
And
I mean,
fight.
No.
I'm not saying you can't have Hostel. I don't really consider that gore porn. I would like have a discussion over why it's horror.
What do you consider gore porn?
Just blood and guts for the sake of blood and guts.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to have a problem there. I have lots of bloods and guts, and I have lots of creepy things.
You like to be contrary for the sake of being contrary.
No, I'm looking for definitions so that, because, for example, a title I had on my list was just given as an example not to mention. So now I know.
Well,
but I had
not by the
reason.
masses, but I would say if I'm going to consider something a gore porn movie.
Like Saw and Hostel were the ones that kind of lifted it, right?
Yeah.
But it was the ones that came after them that started having like no real fucking purpose to them.
Correct. I agree.
Sure.
100% agree.
Right.
And I'm not saying that Hostel, it's not, I don't know what the point of not having gore porn is. What I mean is that I still consider that to be a scary
Don't forget me started on Hostel too.
A horror film, but it's
I would not mention Hostel too.
In my eyes, it is Eli Roth and he kind of said that. He's like, I'm just going for the movie to literally make audiences vomit.
Like Eli Roth, I would consider gore porn.
Maybe that's what he said, but he accidentally did something else that I didn't see because I hated Hostel the first time I saw it. I was like, this is fucking stupid.
I haven't watched it again.
See, so okay, so I'm going to bring Hostel back up in honorable mentions, and we're going to talk about that.
I was already like with Saw, like, okay.
Because I mean, Saw, like all the.
But if it's not for you, it doesn't make it less horror. Like waking up chained to a fucking toilet.
It was more about what's happening to people that's grotesque than the story itself.
Chamber piece, in my opinion.
The first one, yes,
the first one,
sure.
But past 100%. That, it's all gore porn.
Carrie always, yeah.
The whole point of the Saws after
was just to keep. How could we fuck people up?
How bad can we fuck somebody up?
That's what I'm not like. That's not horror,
right? Okay, cool. So we had a discussion. I think I'm going to let Joe start this one out today.
Sweet. So ultimately, what I make a list in my little Samsung Notes thing here, and I give it a title because we always have a genre or a title.
I don't.
No, that's something. We always have a title for a genre. So I said horror, no thrillers, or main suspense. Oh, maybe it was me. Let's say horror, thrillers, and no suspense. Right, and then because of this discussion we just had, like, Ryan was like, "What about gore?" And we were like, "Yeah, blood and guts is fine."
I mean, like, I understand not wanting to fill a list with it. That I understand, but
there's thrillers which are more like I would consider more jump scares. There's suspense, which is like you can get into like some of the ghost stuff,
right?
And but we're doing horror,
so are ghosts not horror?
No, ghosts can be, but I'm talking like paranormal activity and stuff. I wouldn't consider those horror films. They're more like they're branching off of like the Blair Witch.
There's subgenres of horror. If we're doing just a blanket horror discussion today, hold on. If we're doing just a blanket horror discussion today, then all genres are available. It's got to be. I don't know how you're mining it down, and I guess I'm not understanding.
You're the one who asked me to mine it down.
And because you said you laid out rules.
Stipulations are there, and there they are. So my first one is going to be
Set the pace for
Behind the Mask, the story of Leslie Vernon.
The comedy.
That's a horror comedy. Yeah.
Okay. So all things are available. I like that movie. I like that movie a lot.
It's fun. I would agree.
Well, I typed this. Why don't you tell listeners about Behind the Mask?
Behind the Mask, the story of Leslie Vernon takes horror to a different level when it comes to the comedy edition of it, which honestly I've always been a fan of adding comedy to.
I think good horror usually lives with a little bit of comedy.
It's got to have
it's just
a
kind of a
laugh that makes
hand-in-hand
you
thing.
go, I shouldn't be laughing.
People, those of us,
you got to break the tension.
I'm not going to say people because I am one of them. I think all three of us here are in some way those people who like the horror. We're fucked up in a little way. Like that's why we like the horror movies. There are people like my mom who just won't watch that shit because she's not fucked up and she doesn't understand it. I find a little entertainment into it, you know.
To fuck you up.
I'm a little dark. I'll accept it.
Right. It's just tis what tis.
I love it.
So
Leslie Vernon is a serial killer who is of the Mike Myers aspect of it, like kind of that
of the Big Four ilk.
But the twist on this story is that he is recruited or allowed recruitment of like a film crew to follow him, right?
Which is the funniest thing,
right? It really is because he's telling them about what he does,
right?
And ultimately, I know we don't really do spoilers, but the twist is that he's not showing them his victim.
Yeah, save that. I'm gonna stop you there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop you there because there's no reason to mention that.
But then he goes further into like introducing him to his mentor, and they end up digging this guy out of who had like buried himself in a cave, his own coffin, like sensory deprivation.
I mean, the jokes from like training for cardio.
You know how hard it is to run and chase somebody, and when they turn around, you have to be walking and not out of breath. I mean, it's really hard. Like, the cardio alone, like that scene is so.
Yeah. I mean, any of those moments, because it really does. It really lays into the whole idea of like Jason, Michael Myers, all those. Those iconic
it has some great cameos in it from classic horror films.
Yeah,
because I don't want to take them off the list. I won't mention them.
Yeah. And honestly, it's fun for the watcher to be able to see those.
If you have not seen Leslie Vernon behind the story of Leslie Vernon behind the mask, it's amazing. They've been trying to make a sequel, and I can't.
They keep talking about it. We'll see. I'll watch it when it comes out. Yeah. Probably the same way I watched the Jesus or any other long legendary fucking sequel that's just
the beautiful thing about the story is it's a different age, so you don't have to have the same actors.
That is cool. No, and honestly, it could just be a whole different approach. So I honestly wouldn't call it a reboot, but maybe a volume 2 as opposed to a sequel. Like
sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like
at
a revisit.
Point, as long as it's not a reboot, because the first one was so good.
I think the difference between doing like not a sequel but a volume 2, volume is encyclopedic, however they do that, as opposed to just a straight reboot. Reboots always try and reproduce what was done instead of take what worked in the energy and do something new.
Yeah, because the name they were pitching when they originally were trying to do was Rise of the Mask, the birth of Leslie Vernon. Right, so it is kind of
so it could still be of his story.
Yeah, but it could be like maybe his offspring or like where he got the initial inspiration. It could go anywhere.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, makes sense.
Once you know the story, there could be a lot involved.
Okay. That's interesting.
All right, so for my first choice, I'm going to start in the New Age. So that I can then fall backwards and go into deep dive. And it'll also give me a chance to figure out what's permissible tonight.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not. That's not a dig. That's not a dig. That's legit. Like
I hear it.
That was a 2006 as well.
I know.
That's why I chose it as my first.
I was going to bring that up. So this one's a 2016. And what's fascinating about this particular movie is the filmmaker is a special effects artist. And being that it's a low budget by like Hollywood standards,
sure,
right? So there was a fair amount of money in it, but it is fucking phenomenal to watch. And of course, then the practical effects and the gore porn of it. But it's a slasher movie, so it's got to qualify. And that is 2016's Terrifier.
Okay, Terrifier. Okay, yeah, that definitely is a horror. See, it has blood and guts. I wouldn't qualify that as gore porn, though.
So, writer-director Damien Leone put together this movie from a character, a little clown guy that... look at that making noise. I'm going to make that silent.
The last time that was a fucking...
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I guess I can't make it silent.
Do not make it
fucked
silent.
us up. But I got to get the name of the clown. The clown's name was...
Last time we heard that noise...
it stopped recording on us.
Shut down.
Oh, God.
Art the
Luckily,
Clown.
we didn't lose the file.
So one Halloween night, 2 young ladies are trying to make their way to a party, and they stop for some pizza. They're a little bit drunk, so I think they've been partying a little bit. I am going to have to turn this off.
Watch your fucking mouth, computer.
Yeah, seriously.
Computer's just being dumb.
Yeah,
my heart doesn't need that kind of shit. Like every time it does,
while they're having themselves a slice, they meet Art, and this is what's the beauty. I think the beauty of Terrifier is for me, because David Howard Thornton, I'm looking at his name now, plays Art the Clown, and he plays it with all the rules of a clown: the smiles, the miming. He takes on this huge persona, something that we haven't seen since like 80s horror icons in a way that he presents like not just the situation of what's going on, but now he's identified himself as a singular character that is amusing but horrifying.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to go too much further in there. Their night goes downhill from there.
No, like
that's
basically,
that's
if you're not afraid of clowns and you don't want to be, don't watch this because you're going to be afraid of clowns. You're going to do it. It's going to ruin you for clowns.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Well, thank you for that.
That's a GoPro.
Yeah, it's a GoPro.
All kinds of noises. Sorry, listeners. So yeah, Terrifier is my first choice for tonight. Okay. What are our thoughts on that, y'all?
I love Terrifier, dude.
So I'll be completely honest. I know the synopsis. I know the story. I have yet to watch Terrifier.
I do recommend it.
Okay.
Because I was hesitant on it at first because I was like, oh, it's just another. But it's so creative in the approach. So it's very simplistic. It ends up being a chamber piece.
Interesting.
That it's in an abandoned building.
Okay.
And there are a couple other characters, but the two girls are our main leads. And, the traditional tropes of, why do they or how could they or they should have. Yeah. But, like, everything makes sense. Everything ties together. But I'm telling you, just the makeup effects and practical attacks, like, I don't want to ruin any of them because they are just...
Great. Top notch. Okay. All right.
Recommend it.
I need to give it a watch then. To be honest, I have kind of avoided it.
Sure, yeah.
It's just never been something that...
Dude, because the bros got on it. Like, all of a sudden, Terrifier. You guys do Terrifier. And I was like, I don't want to see this fucking thing.
It became such a thing.
And me and a buddy watched it because sometimes we'll do that. We'll watch things. We're like, all right, let's just watch a cheesy something that's just going to suck our afternoon and be like, And we were like, what the fuck?
This is really good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
What's your first?
So my first is going to be an interesting throwback. It's actually called Ghost Watch.
Ghost Watch.
Yep. So it was originally released overseas in England. It was actually one of the first, if not, I'm almost daring to say it was the first found footage movie. I don't remember the day it was released. It was 92.
2 words or one?
Ghost Watch, all one word, I believe.
TV movie, 92. Michael Parkinson.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. In a live broadcast on Halloween night, a BBC team investigate a reported poltergeist in an ordinary London home. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
You are correct. 1992, my friend. Awesome. TV movie.
So that's essentially what happens is that they're on live air, right? Live air, quote unquote. And they're going to investigate a haunting in a house. I don't really want to reveal what happens after that, but let's just say all hell breaks loose, and it gets pretty wild, and it's a fun watch for a little. When I say found footage, now it's not 100% found footage,
right? Because I think in the found footage, because in the found footage definition, found footage would be that it was retrieved in the original intended edit of it.
That's what happens. So I don't want to ruin it per se.
Cool.
But yeah, so essentially, I would definitely...
Sounds a bit like the Blair Witch version of Good Spirits. Do you remember Good Spirits?
No. But the Blair Witch, so basically all that happens, all hell breaks loose, and it gets pretty wild what actually goes down when you find out what the real thing is that is haunting and terrifying this house, that it's not really a fake and that they've all been duped. Sorry, I should probably give it away. Whoops.
No, you're good.
So, but yeah,
it's fine.
I would definitely recommend that for a watch.
Looking at it, it's really a tough one to find. So by the time they find it, they'll forget. I know I will.
Yeah.
So fair game.
Also, the story is a little bit reminiscent of. Obviously, it came way before what I'm going to mention, but Ben Frost, Simon Pegg's partner, has a thing on Amazon called Truth Seekers.
Oh, Nick Frost. Yeah, that was pretty good.
It was. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay.
All right, Joe. Unless you've seen Ghost Watch, I think it's your turn for a recommendation. Oh, you're right. No, you are 100% right. We have made it through our first round. Trevor threw me off, man. I'm still resonating from that.
What happened? Did y'all just fly?
Yeah, I want to do one more. So I wasn't going to just let him do one more. So I did a round. And so he's like, oh, wait, what about break?
I'm like, we're not breaking for...
it's all right. Trevor was fun.
Trevor's a go-go man.
All right, so we are going to take a break, empty our bladders, and take a moment, and we will be back with you in a short few.
Leave me alone.
All right, everyone, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment that this is 2 in a row and my windscreen is still dry?
Pretty fantastic there.
Right?
Brad.
I'm pretty proud of myself. You got to be proud of the small things.
Yeah, you gotta be proud of the small things, but it's about fucking time.
If you don't learn something new every day.
Hey,
It's only taken me 30-something episodes. Welcome back,
Never
everybody.
mind how long those episodes took to record.
All right. So we started our horror list today with Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, Terrifier, and Ghost Watch is where we left off. So that brings us back to Joseph. So Joseph, let's go ahead and stab at this list
We're
again.
gonna go
take
with
the old stabby stab.
The People Under the Stairs.
You son of a bitch. All
The
right.
People Under the Stairs.
Well, cross that one off my list.
So that's Wes Craven, right?
Yes, it is.
This is
I've not seen it. Tell me about it, Joe.
when young fool Brandon Adams breaks into a home of his family's greedy and uncaring landlords, he discovers a disturbing scenario where incestuous adult siblings have mutilated a number of boys and kept a number of boys. Sorry, not a member. I was in my never mind. A number of boys and kept them imprisoned under the stairs in their large, creepy house. As Fool attempts to flee, the psychopaths can catch him. He meets their daughter, Alice, A.J. Langer, who has been spared any extreme discipline by her deranged parents. Can Fool and Alice escape before it's too late?
So, I will say I genuinely do see where Joe loves horror, and it's very much so in the comic side of horror. By comic, I mean comedy.
Yeah.
Because there was quite some
1991.
dark
So this one on
comedy.
IMDb is listed as a dark comedy, horror. Doesn't disqualify it. I'm
Right.
just,
It's a horror comedy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm unfamiliar with this. I've heard this title come up in conversations where it gets maligned. So what's enjoyable about it?
So that was one.
And that's not a challenge. I'm
twisted,
curious.
bro.
No, it's a twisted film. Like you have to understand. Also, like this was like the first. I mean, I won't say it was the first, but like
For a long extended period of time, his first step outside of other franchises.
of other franchises, but also like our first like boy person of color is kind of the lead.
Yeah.
Oh,
what I mean?
okay.
He's a young black man.
Okay.
A young
Yeah.
black adolescent.
Right.
Really.
And it
Oh
was-
man,
it
what the
was-
fuck, dude? That's like, I'm sorry, the trailer's rolling and like the Super Gimp just showed up.
Yeah, it's twisted. It's weird. There's a lot of weird shit. That
Why is it in
happens.
4:3? Was it not a theatrical?
It was theatrical.
So it's just a TV commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
I'm gonna have to add that one to my list, or we may end up watching it next
I've seen
time.
that. Wow, man.
Yeah,
That's
People Under
such a
Stairs is
classic.
really
Yeah,
good.
it's not something I've avoided, and in fact, I'll probably watch it and be like, "Oh yeah, I remember this," because it looks like it might be one of those things that growing up without cable, it was probably something I saw Saturday or Sunday afternoon on UPN.
You probably saw it on UPN, bro. Like 100%.
3.3 million budget. Like it didn't really do crazy well, but it was definitely like one of those that was a theatrical release, but its longevity was TV cut.
Okay.
Yeah, like it made a lot of, like you said.
I mean,
UPN,
let's
TBS,
just let the elephant out of
but
the
they
room.
would cut
Like
the weird shit, like the incestuous stuff out.
Yeah.
you know. But it was risque.
a lot of horror lives in that cut for TV space or the forgotten on video, you know. And I think in the streaming world, it's harder. Like these are titles like, okay, I've heard of this one, but I've not seen it. Right? I've not heard of Ghost Watch, but looking it up, it's harder to find.
Right.
So it's harder because, you know, these movies that were forgotten, once Blockbuster bought them, they still got shuffled to at least one copy. Right. So it was always there for you to go grab. Whereas nowadays, you know, if it's not making money, they're just not going to put it on the streaming service, and now you're fucking boned.
And Ghost Watch, like, also you have to remember that
was a BBC
overseas,
TV
was
broadcast,
so
yeah. Which I get.
It would be
just
kind of
using
strange.
as a recent example.
Absolutely, but it's definitely one of those that would be very hard to find here. Like, you could probably find
even
it
if we're on video.
BBC,
I understand what you're saying. You're right. You're right.
And in fact, it might still be on one of the BBC, like, because, you know, they have those BBC streaming services that we can get in America.
Yeah.
That connect to the BBC.
Yeah.
So
I subscribe to the BBC and the CBC.
Yeah, it's very
Canadian broadcasting.
Yeah, it's very possible that you might be able to find it on there.
You have to subscribe to CBC now?
You had no. It's
Channel 9 used to be just the other free. It was the free channel.
CBC,
like, oh shit, I get one more.
My point is, you need to have access to the Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
Facts.
But I think you can get Kids in the Hall on Amazon.
Now, not when we
Leave
had
me
fucking.
alone.
Okay, you're right. You're taking extra steps. Is
Well,
what
where do you
Chris
think
is
the
saying.
subscription to the BBC is through? Like, I just
No,
it's through Amazon,
Yeah.
right? So
I'm just saying.
semantics.
I'm just saying.
Well, I'm going to pay the whole $6.99. No, I'm doing the $2.99 add-on.
All right.
All right.
Joe.
So moving on. My next is going to be one that was definitely within the last 12 months, was a fresh view for me.
12 months.
12 months. It's not from the last year.
Got it. But it's just fresh
New
view.
for
fresh
me.
View.
New
Okay.
for me.
Yeah.
I resubscribed to Shudder through AMC Plus because I realized, like,
You get it for free.
why the fuck wouldn't you?
Yeah, $2.99.
But I spend all my time on Shudder. I don't think I've watched anything on AMC. Although I did try and watch Preacher. I'm gonna have to go back to that. Give Shane some love. But we watched. He was only like 2 seconds in the first episode.
Well, you're talking about Preacher's son.
Yeah.
No, he's in more of it.
In the first episode.
Well, not the first episode.
No, that's we watched. Yeah, we watched one
Preacher?
episode. Yeah, I just had to get more into it.
was saying,
But anyways,
Love you, Shane.
from yeah, man, we're gonna get you on. He said he would. He said he would. Yeah. So we got to get the online set up. So anyways, Joe's singing, so I got to talk. 1982, movie called Pieces. A movie.
I know this one. Yeah.
A movie where a mysterious killer. I don't remember how much of a mystery it is, but I'm not going to try and ruin it. But either way, the movie opens because you're all going to see it when you see it. But this explains what happens. A young boy is putting a puzzle together while his mother gets murdered in front of him. And from there, he has this psychological disorder where he needs to get his mother back. And so he hits up the local Boston College campus and decides to get pieces of some co-eds.
Oh, so
and
definitely a Frankenstein derivative.
it is in no way similar to Frankenstein, but it is a hell of a good time. It's 82, it's low budget, so there's some of the really cool tear and loose watery blood and this and that, but it's super fun. And as a disclaimer, when we say fun on a horror show, you got to understand, like, we already said we're fucked up. Okay, that's what makes us fun. I don't condone any behavior in any of these movies. That's not what I mean.
No.
But as a piece of entertainment, it is very entertaining. Nice, solid, 90-minute fucking romp and beautiful 80s, like retro. Like, it just has that look of what you enjoy from the 80s. I would probably, if I were to have guessed, I probably would have said 78, 79, because I think it has more of that late 70s look to it than 80s.
Yeah.
But that's probably in the budget in the film stock. So, yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
Hell yeah, brother.
1982 Pieces.
Like refreshing.
Yeah.
It was. No, I mean, I'm sorry for y'all, but I feel better.
Space up, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. At least you didn't blow it in my face like it did in Kentucky. It almost knocked me on my ass. So
Yeah, things happen, man.
Yeah.
What happens in Kentucky stays in Kentucky,
you're
Chris.
right. You're right. You're not wrong.
After so long, you learn to stay upwind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got, yeah.
I was walking behind him. I had no choice.
It was windy. Okay,
I had to sally
choice.
forth, okay? Like, I didn't have a choice.
Sally.
Yeah.
So, has anybody seen Pieces?
I feel like I've seen this. It's been so long, though, that I just
It's
don't
a fresh one. I can understand, like, 5 years from now, I'll probably remember much less of it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't say it's a memorable watch.
Yeah.
Like, it'll blend into a lot of the others because I was binge watching
Sorry,
late
I was
70s,
typing
early
one
80s
movie.
stuff. Pieces. We were cutting up
Not
co-eds.
seen it.
I guessed as much when you thought it was Frankenstein. So, cheers.
I mean, how?
No, that's not a derogatory. You think everything I say is an insult. I'm just saying I understand that you haven't seen it.
Using body parts to bring somebody to life, not Frankenstein.
He wasn't trying to bring anybody to life.
Yeah, there was no bringing back. From what I remember, it was pretty.
So, Christopher, moving on.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw one out there that I would hope you both have seen. It's called Videodrome.
Ooh, yes,
David Cronenberg.
Yeah, some
Have not
Cronenberg,
seen it yet.
and it's James Woods. You should absolutely.
No, it's on the list.
It's a young James Woods.
It's on the list. So the last time it was recommended to me, this was a weird thing. And you can, as a person I know, because this wasn't a person I knew.
Yeah.
They said, if you're not going to watch it on a CRT TV, don't bother.
Shut the fuck
Is there
up.
any fucking, this is, This is the thing. I'm not going to say it was, but it was one of Graham's friends, or it was in the realm of people that he hangs with.
I mean, would I say that
it's still worth watching?
It's
right?
still worth watching. Now,
that makes sense to you, though, when I say that,
absolutely,
right? Okay.
Absolutely, because of the way it revolves around. Absolutely, it makes sense. So that's really all about a Canadian programmer who is trying to find a new station to keep the station alive, the TV station that is. He stumbles.
We used to have those before streaming.
We need a new program.
He stumbles upon this bizarre station that he becomes infatuated with, and things get really weird.
Interesting.
I mean, really weird. I would say that this is definitely something you don't, although most horror films I would say you're not watching with your kids, but I would definitely say this is not one you should watch with children. Definitely not that one. So yeah, it's great. Fair. I love it. I think it's a fun piece. I think it's one of Cronenberg's best. Also, I'm a very big body horror guy, so that's just me. But I'm into
this one qualifies in body horror. So
it does.
This is at the end of a round. So I'm going to go ahead and take this as a little aside, little step aside. Now that we've done a body horror episode, and that was on your recommendation,
right?
Could you give us so here's what I learned looking up and watching some, because I did feel like I had to watch some to make sure that I didn't believe I'd watch any.
Sure.
Is it super common for a body horror movie to be just any other type of movie until one small like for example, The Brood doesn't really get you don't really see a lot until the third act. You don't see and From Beyond it doesn't really get crazy to the third act.
Yeah, I mean From Beyond, however, does get weird.
It is weird.
Really
it is weird, but body horror doesn't really happen until the scientist becomes that gelatinous blob in that last third,
Well, but it happens in the second act. I mean, we see him appear and things look off. Mm-hmm. So there is some body dysmorphia happening at that point. Now, when he gets really wild and becomes the thing, then I hear what you're saying. But Videodrome, I mean, I feel like it gets pretty body horror weird really quick. Cronenberg is, we're just going to be clear, Cronenberg is king of. He's the master. So Infinity Pool. Well, Infinity Pool is
the son, yeah.
But
bow down, plebes.
I haven't seen either of his yet.
But his son
was it Passenger,
Infinity Pool, and Oh God, am I going to say?
I'll look it up.
It's Possession. Possessor.
I knew it started with a P.
Possessor.
It was his last one.
Yeah, Possessor is fantastic. Infinity Pool is fantastic.
Okay. I'll have to give those a shot.
But you kind of have to be open to weird. If you're not open to weird. If you're not open to weird, I don't suggest.
And I think so. That was I couldn't get my regular movie watcher to go with me.
Okay, gotcha.
And then he had gone and seen it with somebody else. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, you're not gonna like that movie." And I immediately was like, "Oh, I'm probably gonna love this movie."
Yeah, and that's what I mean is there's a lot of people that aren't gonna get it or want to try to get it, but Possessor, it's wild. But I love it. The whole premise, what they have to do, how it works. You're basically an assassin. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you're an assassin that is taking over people's bodies in a weird way.
And which one was this? Possessor?
That's Possessor.
Okay.
Infinity Pool is totally different and hard to explain. You got to watch it.
Hard to explain is good too.
Yeah. It's definitely not a movie that you go, what the fuck? But it's definitely a movie of oh, this is a lot. This is a lot to take in. I gotta watch this. No.
His movie recommendation is Videodrome.
Videodrome.
We just tangented. I did a side after the round to just kind of have a discussion on clarity for body horror.
Cronenberg, anything by Reanimator, From Beyond.
Right.
Go on. Bride of Reanimator, all those.
See, and I guess that was the problem I had because I knew that as a neophyte going in, I was like, oh, okay, at least I know that Stuart Gordon and David Cronenberg, but I didn't want to do a list of Stephen Cronenberg. So we extended, but like I still, like if I went to Reddit, and I still got like a lot of loose, plus a lot of crossover. Like some people said Hostel was, and I was like, well, from the rules laid out, Hostel doesn't qualify because
I wouldn't call
that's destroying and not really modifying, right? Like there was no forward progress to the person, which I understood. But then like I recommended Evil Dead 2 because he fucking chops his arm off and fucking throws a chainsaw on.
Right. And when I'll be honest, I listened. I think
that's
you both
like the baseline qualification. You're like, you could do better.
I think you both did a fair job with your body horror options. But I would argue on Evil Dead. Like, I don't classify that as a body horror movie because the main throughout line is not about him doing that.
So that's why I went with 2 because he spends a whole scene arguing with his body and like the possession. Then he separated his hand from his body.
Right.
It was a tough one for me.
Right.
But I was like, all right, I'll toe the line.
No,
it's fine.
I like your definition of why Evil Dead doesn't fit because that actually expounds on why Final Cut would fit because. Like the tattoos and the implants were directly related to the plot.
Yeah, I don't think body modification was a problem with that when I think the horror part was a
I agree. I'm just saying,
Got it.
Like, for the 2 that were on the line, his description answered both, like why one qualified a little more and one didn't.
And at the end of the day, we got to watch a really cool fucking movie.
Final Cut's awesome.
Final Cut's awesome. But yeah, I like I said, there are so many ways you can take body horror, just like horror in general.
Right.
It's like us saying gore porn, don't do it. Like, what do you classify as gore porn? It's like, well, me personally, I'm like, well, Hostel, kind of gore porn.
I'm not against gore porn. I just didn't think it would fit in doing the horror genre.
And that's not what we're saying.
I know that.
Right.
I'm
just saying that, like, there's such an abundance of source material and things you can go through and things like you just did with Evil Dead 2. It's like, well, I could classify that as body horror.
And I think that's a part of the fun of this show is like we're creating, I mean, horror is a genre, right? It's an established genre. But ultimately, most times we're fucking around with like the legitimacy of what a genre is.
Which is awesome.
Just trying
this
to
is really our opinion of that.
Yeah. It's just, it's a way to corral people so at least we can stay within the same conversation.
Correct. Which is great.
All right. So we've got 6 down, 6 more to go, and that leads us back to Yosef.
I'm ready.
Bring it, Yosef. What do you got?
I'm going to take it back to 1963. Mr. Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds.
Okay.
I saw this in theater when I was about 10. It was a special showing my dad took me to. Like a double feature. It was that in Casablanca, which was fucking weird.
That is fucking weird. Why would you fucking do that?
It was dope, though.
You know what's weird about
that? Fox Theater downtown. Like, it's the first time I ever went there. Like, changed my life. Dude.
I'm going to argue that. I mean,
I think that falls in, like, where people are like, oh, well, Seven Dust is no longer metal. That's hard rock. I think it's just a change in time and how we see, like, Birds isn't that scary anymore. Like, no, that shit's fucking terrifying. However, think about it.
I would still argue that Seven Dust is metal. Go.
Oh, I mean, no, I'll go.
Take that. Yeah.
Fuck yes.
But anyways, Birds are 2 leads in a San Francisco pet store, or in his pet store, and decide, like a bird decides to follow him home. She brings with her the gift of 2 lovebirds. They strike up a romance. One day, birds start attacking children at a party, and a huge assault starts on the town. And it's just, for 1963, it was a game changer.
I mean, and to be clear, anything Alfred did was a game changer.
It was
almost all of them, for sure.
When we said horror, I had to pick one of his, and for me, that was formative.
So here's what's funny. Like, I took him and said he is an honorable mention at best, in my opinion, because it's prolific. Like, everybody, you say The Birds, I've seen The Birds, you've seen The Birds, I'm sure he's seen The Birds. You know what I mean? Like, we've all seen it. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where I was like, I just
had to.
Totally. No, and totally. And I 100% applaud you. Like,
it was formative for me in my appreciation for the genre because it was so simple, so scary.
Totally. No. And I agree. I mean, shit, all of his movies were that way. I mean, now granted, by the time I saw Psycho, Birds, North by Northwest, all those movies,
Vertigo.
Vertigo. They weren't as scary to me, but that was just because
I'm glad you said that.
Passed.
I'm glad you said that. So
I could see what made it scary.
He was the godfather of a genre.
I watched
for a generation, and we were of 2 generations later.
No argument with that.
There was more shocking stuff now.
Yes, and I think that's
still undeniable.
A little bit of a result of desensitization, right? So I just recently watched Psycho. I watched it. We had a Chamber Piece episode, and I was like, well, someone may. I'm not going to bring it up because I just watched it, but if someone mentions it, I want to at least be able to talk about it. And I didn't love it. Now, I was able to look at it as a student and see what people take away from it and you know, be able to dissect that and see. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that I can't say, for me personally, holds up.
Sure,
like
I can get that.
It did its thing. We've learned from it. We've done and moved on from it.
We've expounded upon it.
Whereas Vertigo still holds up for me. And that's
interesting.
That's just weird. Now, when I say that, it has been probably 15 years since I've seen Vertigo, so maybe that's due for a rewatch. But as a 42-year-old man watching Psycho, 60, how many years of 60?
Maybe a lot of it lends
80 years, 90 years later?
Yeah.
No, that's math is way off. That math is way off. 40, 60, almost 70.
A lot of it lends to your state of mind and where you at to perceive it. Like if you would have seen Psycho when you saw Vertigo,
I don't think so. So here's my interpretation of my viewing of it is it's something that lives in the zeitgeist, but it lives in the zeitgeist within like a very small scope of what the movie is. A lot of what I saw was never really discussed. Like it's not about him at all. It's about the girl. And you see more of the girl than you see of him. Yeah. And then when she gets to where she's going, immediately he gets creepy, but it's really only one act because then she's fucking gone and then it's the police officer that comes in. So it's just not what like it's not what her it's not the
relationship with his mother.
Correct.
No, I'm not debating that. My enjoyment of it came from like it's like the reason I haven't seen Jaws. People talk so much about it. I'm afraid
you have a general
when I see
problem
it,
with building things up so much in your mind because of what other people have said rather than taking the time to judge it yourself.
Well, no, it's not. There are things you can't avoid. I watch a lot of VH1. I watch a lot of like these things are come to you, and so like okay, there's an expectation that is set.
And I mean,
when somebody tells you you're going to get your socks knocked off, like you going like now you already don't have socks. They're already off.
Right.
Yeah, you're like, nah, I didn't see it.
But I mean, like, okay, dude, like seriously, you have to watch Jaws.
At some point, you have to blame
like
I will.
the shelter.
You can't say I haven't watched Jaws. Like that is
at some point he has to blame.
I'm going to start with Jaws 3
and not the art.
Yeah.
It's not the art's fault.
You hear me? I'm going to start with Jaws 3.
Too late.
Oh my God, fuck you.
It is not the art's fault that you saw it too late. Man.
No, I get that, but it's not my.
There's a shark in the water, man.
It's not my fault that the artist created the. That goes both ways.
Salsa shark.
I'm not insulting the artist. I think what he did at the time was fine. What I'm saying is, it's like the fact that I know I'm not alone. I've heard the opinion that I share with many, many others. I saw Goonies too late. It's not a good movie. That's my opinion based on an adult who saw it.
Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying. Like you're saying
the magic was lost for me.
Agree with
you were an adult, and
but
so
it's not the artist's fault that you saw it too late.
It also wasn't intended for me. It was intended for children. I saw it as an adult
when you were a child.
Yes,
but I mean, I will be honest. You're
digging for semantics, but I'm just giving the.
Now, I mean, I will say, like, I remember watching Goonies as a child and loving it. I went back and watched it, and maybe it's the childhood memory that still
there's that nostalgia.
Oh my God, that's still
right.
I think it's a great movie. I genuinely love the Goonies. Like I think it's fun. I think it's a fun action It's a fun kid action movie. You know,
I don't think it's a bad movie. Yeah. What I mean is, it's not enjoyable to me.
Sure, and that's fine.
I can see where it's enjoyable, but I'm not gonna placate and be like, oh yeah, I fucking loved it. I was like, well, it was all right.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to the same thing what I said about Psycho and stuff like that. Like it's
what I'm saying is not semantics. Okay, what I'm saying is you're not appreciating the art for the time it was made because of you're judging it by when you were exposed rather than when it was made.
No, I mean, I can turn that off and see that, but I still have to have my own personal opinion.
Yeah, you can. But
so I have my takeaway from it, and then I have like, okay, it's Richard Donner. Like there was things that were done right. The fucking shipwreck scene is fucking gorgeous. You know,
Richard fucking Donner.
There are things that I'm like, okay, I appreciate this.
Yeah,
it's Are you listening to Spielberg? If you wouldn't have cut the octopus, he would have loved.
See, Joe knows me. Joe knows me. Okay, so Bird. So that brings me to us. That is me. All right. So what is Beeford going to do?
I'm interested, though.
I'm going to stick with, I mean, we've been doing pretty good at, like, not doing the ops. So I'm going to stay away from some of the obvious ones and take an opportunity. I'm going to go with, I don't remember the year, so I'll look that up as I'm talking. Yep. I believe it's Mario Bava. 1971's Bay of Blood.
Ooh, I've never seen this. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
The Bay of Blood, yes.
Bay of Blood. So Bay of Blood starts with a elderly woman getting murdered, and you quickly find out that it may or may not have been her husband. And then it tangents off and splits you up into a couple of different storylines for a different group of people. And that's where your red herrings start coming in, like who is what is whatever. Yeah. But this is essentially like credited as the first slasher movie being 1971. A group of young adventurers, we'll say, young sex-filled teenagers are out and they find this... they're looking for a place to shag and hang out, and they find this house that is now abandoned because the woman is fucking dead, and find themselves in an area where trouble is afoot. There is an investigation on the old woman's death.
Trouble on your feet.
They don't have, so there's no proof of who killed her. There's no evidence that the police have found, so the police are investigating it. Okay. Then there is a neighbor who is, I mean, I'm not going to, so basically, people start getting their throats slit.
Okay.
All over the place.
Bay of Blood.
It becomes a Bay of Blood.
Here we go.
Yes. And in amazing Mario Bava fashion, the deaths themselves are incredibly artful. You know, you get that great bright red colored blood. Yeah. You get the open wounds that just gush, and ultimately it's a fun ride trying to figure out who and what. The last girl trope is somewhat established, but fucked with a lot. Okay. So because the tropes weren't there, there wasn't a trope to stand on. Yeah. So like it was definitely the beginning. Like what Halloween would do in the future simplifies what Bay of Blood did, and Bay of Blood definitely feels like an experiment, but at the same time does it really fucking well.
Interesting. Okay.
And at the end of the day, it's Mario fucking Bava.
I didn't see Bay of Blood until. I bought like one of those like DVD like composites of all these. It was like titled
like a
The Bucket of Blood and All the Blood Movies kind of thing, right? And the Bay of Blood was on there, and it was one of my favorites to play in mine and my wife's like Halloween things. We'd always just put those old horror movies on in the background. You know?
Oh yeah. So I can honestly say that is one that I have not seen. I've heard of it. I know it's around, but I have not seen it.
All right, can we all just take a moment of silence for the fact that Brad's finally seen a movie Chris hasn't seen? Okay.
No, because
Jesus.
I don't know. When I saw it,
I just feel like I'm behind, and I am.
I just didn't feel the nostalgia. I don't see what the hype is.
Yeah.
I didn't relate to it because I saw it when I was an adult.
That's fair, man.
So it's a piece of shit. Even though you all love it, I'm just
putting words in my mouth.
Yeah. No, I'm just giving you your own shit back, and it's for the fun of it. Okay,
there we go.
All right, Chris, what's your next recommendation?
Oh man! All right, so
Joe's writing jokes.
I'm also going to take it back a little, back into the late '80s, right? Little '88 action.
Little '88.
It's called Night of the Demons. I don't know if you've seen it. Did I throw you another one, Brad? That
I have not seen it, and I do believe Dylan brought this one up on our... I don't remember. I'm going to look it up. Go ahead. Talk
Well,
about
he
Night of the
brought it up
Demons.
because it's fantasy. There's a fantasy element.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
Yeah, but definitely checkmate him on that because he just said, I saw one that Chris did, and then you bring it back.
No. Here's the thing. I had to sell it because I know there's a shit ton of them.
Yeah.
I have to take the one moment when I can get it.
I don't want to deny you.
Yeah, I just need that one piece of gold.
So basically,
This is definitely not the one that he recommended.
Two teenagers party in an abandoned funeral parlor on Halloween night. I'm just reading this because it's a lot easier to explain. When an evil force awakens, demonic spirits keep them from leaving and turn their gathering into a living hell. It is quite a 80s B movie. It also would have been
80s B movies.
It would have been one of those ones that you probably would have seen on UPN if you were watching at that point.
Okay. Severely cut.
Severely.
I would say the makeup here looks pretty wild.
Oh, it gets wild, man. It
Presently available on AMC. Okay, I'm going to watch this.
there you go. Night of the fucking
Next time we talk about it, maybe I'll have seen it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. I'm just saying, dude. Like it's
Hell yeah, brother.
It is a
Not
There you
not to be confused with Demon Knight, you damn low down, po down, super motherfucker.
Yep. All I want.
You get that on one day. We'll make a whole episode just so you can put that one on. We'll figure it
It's got
out.
to be demon related. That's just all there is to it.
There's a story to it. I don't want to take the airtime for it, but he's got a legitimate point. He wants that one on. I want him to have it.
I get it. It's worth it.
Like 4 times.
Yeah. I mean, and we've gone horror how many times now, and it still has yet to.
It is.
Oh,
it is the great Billy Zane.
He tried to
at
do it
his
as the
best.
sequel better than the original, and then found out it came out before Bordella.
because it was the original, but it was better. Okay,
It's still
It
better.
was the original Tales from
It's
Tales
still
from the Crypt.
better.
So Night of the Demons is one I've heard of a lot, but it's not one that like visually, like when I hear the title,
It doesn't grab you.
yeah, a screen grab doesn't come up where I'm familiar with it at all. It looks like, is it teenage? You said abandoned party when an evil force. I mean, are they vampires? What like is it?
Oh,
and it's a comedy. Where's the comedy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It gets fun. It gets
Okay.
really fun. Just watch it. I don't want to ruin anything.
No,
for you.
definitely not. Joe, is Night of the Demons something you've seen?
Yes,
Any additional thoughts on it?
I mean, I don't want to,
Yeah,
build
without
your
ruining
hope
it.
up too much so that you
Bro,
hate
this
it.
guy,
He is on one about this.
dude.
He's been doing it for years, dude. He needs to realize that he's the problem sometimes.
Okay, wait.
No, I'm just so fucking around. I am on one tonight.
Am I the doctor?
He's
Am I
on
the
a few
doctor right
tonight.
now?
I'm on a few today.
Okay, guys. Dr. Warren's in the house.
I'm
Let's
gonna
talk about
put
this.
the next one down right now. Anyway, no,
There
I'm
we
just
go.
fucking around.
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
It is. For the
Yeah.
fourth.
Well, I mean, as we said on last episode with Quinn, like if I'm not fucking with you, I don't care about you. So I
Yeah.
must be concerned.
It's truth.
No, I'm just
Truth. Oh, it's truth.
No, really, I'm just really having a good
Guys,
time.
he really loves Brad, just so you know.
But wait a minute.
He is my hetero life mate. We are Joe
know.
and Boisterous Bradford. Like it's
yeah,
very
that's my new
close.
moniker.
How
that
does
was.
it- how
I don't
does
know.
you
That just got blessed to me.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, because
I've known
because
about it less than 48 hours.
Joe,
Oh.
like Jay from Jay and Silent Bob,
Yeah.
Joe just talks.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Right. I'm not afraid to speak up.
Right.
Silent
so
Bob.
It's like Silent
so it's
Bob.
the juxtaposition that is the
'Cause I'm
joke.
not silent.
I see it. Okay. All right.
And
I
really,
see where we're
what's
going.
funny about it is that the one with the actual meaningful is the silent one when it comes to the Jay and Silent Bob, but we both have meaning.
Yeah.
I like
wish I
the
had headphones to
juxtaposition.
hear
I
that.
like the juxtaposition.
That pour sounded amazing.
Okay,
Even
so
from
I'm going to
way over
go
here.
with 1994's horror sci-fi Brain Scan.
Ooh.
Edward Furlong
that is
classic that went
It's the second,
under the radar.
second time in probably 4 episodes. I think he's mentioned this one. So
13%
it's a good one.
Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. Horror films and computer games fascinate teenager Michael.
Yeah.
Edward Furlong.
Yeah.
And a CD-ROM that portrays murder from the killer's point of view combines these interests. The first time Michael plays it, he kills a stranger and cuts off a foot, thinking the events take place in the virtual reality. But the next day, Michael finds a foot in his refrigerator, and Cyber Ghoul Trickster, played by T. Ryder Smith, emerges from the program and forces him to keep playing and to continue committing violent crimes.
I also saw this one on
Director
UPN.
John Floyd. Yes.
Yeah, this was another fantastic. I remember seeing the VHS cover in Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, I got late
Oh,
fees for that returning this
Nice.
bitch. I loved it.
Hell
I
yeah.
rewatched it.
Is it the cover with the guy's head split and echoing?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one.
I can see not wanting to return that.
I mean, it was. Look, it's a fun movie. Would I say it's like amazing?
No,
I mean, it's Edward Furlong.
It
like,
was a
wrong.
B-roll,
and I like
but
Edward Furlong.
It was
but-
better. It came out in like a trauma-esque kind of way, but it was better than a trauma.
Sure.
You know, at the time,
I mean, Ed Furlong is a good fucking time.
Yeah.
Right?
when he was in this
era.
at that peak,
Yeah,
before he
100%.
crashed. Yeah, it was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
To be fair.
It was so fucking cyberpunk.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's the first mention that Joe had tonight where horror is the first genre listed on IMDb. It's body horror, dark comedy, and slasher horror.
Body horror.
But no, genuinely, this
I mean,
is
it
the
kinda
second
is.
time
It
Joe's
kinda
mentioned
is.
this, and
Yeah.
I've not watched it yet. It is
love
on.
that movie.
Oh, it's for rent. That's probably why I haven't watched it yet because fucking cheap. But I will get to it when it gets on Shudder or on streaming.
There you go.
I do want to see it though because I mean, just watching through this, what I love
I just
about
want to
it.
clarify for our listeners. Brad's saying he's cheap, not
By the way,
movie's
I'm going to
cheap.
scoot back for a second.
That is
I just
correct.
wanna clap. Great job, Joe. Great job, Joe. Great job, Joe.
I said I'm cheap. There was no confusion.
I know, but if I'm gonna ride you for an episode, I gotta continue.
You gotta hold on. I'm loving what I'm seeing on the makeup effects. I'm loving what I'm
great.
seeing on this weird,
it's fun.
ghouly dude with I don't know how to describe this haircut.
Yeah, but for
It's 100% fun.
1992,
It's like a Dracula
how
mullet.
Yeah,
It's
it's
beautiful.
It
I
is
love it.
Beautiful
It is
fucking
It looks like a wild
glam rock
episode
meets punk
of
rock meets
Outer
fucking new
Limits.
age.
Yeah,
Like,
bro.
it's so stupid funny.
Yep.
Well, that is Joe's
If you
recommendation.
come at me like I didn't see it young enough. I look at all the nostalgia for it.
That is Joe's last recommendation for the night. I don't know where to go from here because I do have a long list and I'm like, but
Let's go, Beeford. Come on.
I think I'm going to go with a classic because if this is an entry, you're like, okay, like I've thrown some. I mean, Terrifier is not a place that I would start if I've never watched a horror movie.
Sure.
I'm just going to say that, and neither is Pieces or Bay of Blood. So I'm going to dial it
Great
back.
movies, though.
I'm going to dial it back a little bit, and I think I'm going to go with.
I felt like it hurt. Sorry, I didn't interrupt that.
That's
Yeah,
okay. That was a good one. It was worth.
That was more painful than relieving. I will admit.
I'm going to go with this. So there's one particular director, creator in the horror space that I absolutely love. And he's known for a series and a number of movies where I'm like, well, do we just need to talk about it? And then in 2009, he came out with this fucking banger that I just have to recommend.
Okay.
And that's 2009's Drag Me to Hell from Sam Raimi.
Oh,
Miss-
good lord!
well,
Fuck yeah, dude.
Mr.
That-
Michigander, throwing out the Michigander.
Hell
Say
yeah.
what you gotta say, dude. Sam Raimi's a shit, and Drag Me to Hell was something else, dude.
Oh, I mean,
I love that,
I
but-
mean,
Drag Me to Hell
is fun.
I
as
love
shit.
is so fun. It is, what is her name? I forget her name. I wish she was around still doing stuff. Alison Lohman and Justin Long, who for some reason is not known for horror movies, but seems to be in fucking all of them.
He's so good, dude. What he's best at is showing up, showing out, and disappearing.
Yeah.
But this is about a young banker girl. This is about a young girl who works at a bank and has to turn down a loan to a woman who is trying to save her home. And she's just following the rules. It is just the way that it is, which is unfortunately the way that taking out loans can be. Well, this woman happens to be,
Or a gypsy.
I don't want to use the word, but she is a magical woman. Did they say?
They say gypsy
Okay.
in the movie.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
she
it's
is
a
gypsy.
derogatory
I've
term in
recently
life,
learned,
but
yeah.
that's what they use in the movie.
Okay, so-
we're not skirting around actual.
And she puts a curse on her,
Hurt your
and
feelings, fucking grow up.
from there, it is probably one of the most body fluid filled, disgusting
Oh yeah,
romps of
Oh.
just exciting chaos that
good.
I've ever seen.
For those of you that don't know Sam Raimi, he loves body fluid.
He fucking loves it. But Evil Dead is not a body
if
horror.
Evil Dead wasn't for you because it was a little too campy, this
fuck yourself.
This
now,
is
you asshole.
this is the Sam Raimi movie with the budget to turn your stomach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, It has all of that.
What was nice about seeing that, because that was post Spider-Man, and I loved Spider-Man. I loved what he did with Spider-Man, but like
the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man for those out there.
Yeah, there's been several. Yes, back in 2009 was after all of the But it was nice to see like
Campbell was there.
Like he could just like dust it off and do something that was like the fun that I had with Evil Dead. Notched up like modern day, more money. Like this is what he could do with a few more supplies.
Drag Me to Hell, like the production value in that, and it was 100% Sam Raimi. Like there was it was unapologetically him, but it was definitely a different level of him.
Yeah,
in a way, like
it was
like
which
he wanted.
It was graduation, you know.
I feel like was one of the reasons that it was kind of panned in the box office.
But I feel like you can't go into a movie like I feel like the studio is stupid to think that this thing is going to make millions of dollars. Like horror just doesn't do that. Sometimes there's a 1 in a million chance where you get like
unless you're a franchise.
Right.
Sure.
But then if you become a franchise, then the second and the third one, you get diminishing returns, and then you hate the first one because they just tore it all to hell.
When you become a name, you're known for your name. And he was known for cheesy comedy horrors and to drive home a real
But I feel like
people just
he was able to do, like you said, you could see Sam Raimi all over it. But at the same time, I feel like even the comedy was dialed back in this one. He was strict. Yes.
Can I break your sweetheart?
Break it.
Opus.
So Evil Dead Rise made over 156 million box office.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That doesn't break my heart because here's the thing.
But chronologically, that was after. So like,
chronologically,
but he didn't direct it.
He was a producer,
right?
Instead of a director.
And he's got the caliber. That Evil Dead Rise is an example of what I really expect from continuing franchises.
Absolutely.
There was care taken for it. There was already another remake, right? That they're trying to call canon. So now we've got 3 canon books.
I will oversee my universe.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying. Like there's 3 canon books now that, but that particular one had love to.
I'd love to know which book is which universe though, because honestly, like you have
where does Ash fall in that? Is Ash within his own?
He's with his book.
Okay. So that makes sense.
But you have the Bite book from Army of Darkness, and you have the Tunnel book. So which book was
There's 3 of them from Army of Darkness.
Right.
Yeah.
His book, the Biting book, and the Tunnel book.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
So which book is what?
Plato, Verata, Necto.
Nectarine.
Nectarine. Basically, I said them,
Yeah.
Nutella.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't get every single syllable right, but
that's my interesting thought.
Was she
what
raised in
is
a
that
barn?
with Sam Raimi?
Probably
Like,
wasn't raised in a barn.
Which universe?
I think-
What are we going with canon? Like,
I think, sometimes we tie things in like cool at work. Now let's tie it in or whatever. But I think the interesting thing with Sam Raimi is Spider-Man being an example. He had a lot of, let's look at a modern day guy. Not that Sam Raimi isn't, but M. Night Shyamalan's making more movies concurrently right now than Sam Raimi is. And people are touting about like he had to self-fund all his last movies. And the reason is because he got big and he was a sellable name. So they just started throwing money at him. But then the movies weren't great.
Correct.
So they just stopped selling. They just stopped selling
more ideas, dude.
But he still have more ideas, right? So I believe Sam Raimi was very similar. Like you had the Darkman. He went off into TV.
Oh, Darkman.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So there was those of us who appreciate that, but it didn't sell globally the way that studios want. And studios have high expectations. So what I think is successful versus what a studio thinks is successful, is going to be a different thing. So then he did Spider-Man. He's now done. Like I personally do not see Sam Raimi DNA in much of Spider-Man. I see some of it here and there. But as a movie as a whole, he adopted a different style to make these movies for the studio. Yeah. So then he was able to then set out and be like, fuck it, I'm doing Drag Me to Hell and we're going to have some fucking fun.
That's a very good point.
Which is what happened. And I thought it was great. Like that. And so to go back to that, like, I still think it's a great movie. And I hate that it did get panned in the box office. And I know a lot of people that I will have arguments with about Drag Me to Hell with, that I'm
So
like,
good.
it's a great movie. And they're like, no, it sucks. I'm like, you're crazy. You need to go back and rewatch that. Like, it's actually genuinely good.
It's Sam Raimi with an M. Night Shyamalan twist. Because do they make you think that they found the button?
Yeah, that's fair.
And she goes,
That's
"Ah!"
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think
it does have a twist.
it's a rug. I think it's more of a rug
There's a
being
rug
pulled.
pull. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Either way, I mean, it's still,
definitely not. It's not
stronger than
classic
your
Hollywood
classic red
ending.
herring.
It's
Yes.
it's not classic Hollywood ending. Like you're
more of that twist.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was my last pick. That leaves us with one more pick tonight. Chris, you got to leave us off with our last recommendation, and of course, we are going to do some discards and some honorable mentions.
Yeah, I
and
was going to
such.
say, because I've got a lot.
Yeah, I've got a
Me
few.
too,
I whipped up a list.
I got a lot.
Although in our comparisons, we have brought up some of them. I'm still going to mention them.
Yeah. So my last one is in honor of my dear brother, who is going to be in my new movie that I'll be talking about later.
Ooh,
Dear old Graham Skipper.
Graham Skipper.
I love that man. Beyond the Gates.
Beyond the Gates.
Beyond the Gates, 2016. It is an indie horror, but it is very good. It actually has Graham, it has Brea Grant, it has Barbara Crampton.
That's the GoPro. Ignore that.
Damn GoPro. Sorry, guys. Lots of really good talent in it. So two estranged brothers reunite at their missing father's video store to find a VCR board game dubbed Beyond the Gates that holds a connection to their father's disappearance. And that's all I'm going to say, because it is quite interesting the way it all shakes up.
So, like, what type of movie is it? As far as like what kind of horror?
I would call it like a fantasy horror. I mean, you do kind of end up in this weird realm, I guess you could say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a VCR board game. So like it's, you start off playing. I mean, I don't know if you remember the VCR. I'm sure you do. VCR.
Of course I do. I had a Teddy Ruxpin.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Sam, love you. Shane, love you. Hopefully you're listening to this podcast. Make sure we give you a shout out on Facebook and Instagram and all those things. I mean, honestly, like, it really is. It's a great, fun little movie. I personally think it's great. I think it did really well. I do think it landed well with most audiences. I don't think it got a big box office release, but
I will tell you,
it's rated at a half. It's 5.1 out of 10, and that's normally a decent score.
I was just gonna say. So I think star ratings when it comes to horror movies are a bit. I'm not gonna say you never. I can't say you never. But as a whole, they don't land in the 8, 9, 10 area.
Correct.
Like
they don't.
They
just don't get there.
There's like few exceptions that land in the 8, 9, 10 area. I think like 4.5 to 7.5 is a pretty solid recommendation when it comes to a horror movie, because there's some things you have to just be like forgiving of, like, okay, budget was down, so the acting sucked, or the makeup was bad, or whatever it could be, like, but they were trying their hardest, and this is what we got from it.
Even if all the production counts are there, the chemistry just wasn't there. Like, not everything can be
like The Cube from a few weeks ago, right? Cube is an incredibly entertaining movie, and it was obvious that the budget went into things like set design and the
pre-production,
and the kills.
How are we gonna do this?
But it wasn't put into talent.
You know what's so funny to me is Cube was actually one of the ones that I was going to put on the list. Actually, it is on the list.
It's so good.
But I was like, I don't know.
And we had just spoken of it as chamber pieces.
Hey, we put it on as a chamber piece. That was Joe's recommendation.
It's a horror film, though.
It is, but it falls short. Like we were talking about The Last Kill.
So much crossover, guys.
Gigantic chamber piece, but
it's horrifying, right? It's well, but they're locked in.
Right,
they're in
19,000.
It's like walking on a fucking treadmill, really.
It's like Portal,
but the set was 3 rooms. Like it was, and they just moved the modulars around for one side,
whatever,
change the LEDs.
So that's our list tonight. I'm going to read it down, and then I'm going to have Chris roll a die, and from there, we will then go into our discards.
Space.
Let that D12 roll.
So we started with Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Next was Terrifier. After that was Ghost Watch, a nice BBC movie that Chris recommended for us. After that, Joe gave us The People Under the Stairs from Wes Craven, who I thought might have made another appearance, and Chris made me pretty proud tonight. I don't mean that. Like, you most certainly could have mentioned.
I'm sure
but, like,
he adjusted just because I put him on the list.
No, No. Honestly, it's not one that I'd bring up because everybody's seen it.
That's all. Yeah, that's all. Joe gave us The Birds. Bay of Blood was mentioned. Night of the Demons, Brain Scan, Drag Me to Hell, and then we topped our list off with Beyond the Gate. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and give that dice a roll? We're going to get a number 1 through 12 here and see what we're going to watch. Now, there is a, I'm just going to say this before you roll. There is a high chance that some of these films are not available to watch, and in the case of that, we may
did go old a bit. Yeah.
We may have to re-roll. So just fair warning, and that's for you guys, and for me, because I'd like to watch whatever's rolled, but at the same time, if we can't, or if it's just...
I'm just saying I might have a copy of Ghost Watch, so if that lands.
Yeah, but I can't send that to all our listeners. While our listener base is still pretty small, that's probably a pretty valuable DVD to send over.
True.
And then eventually there's going to be a lot of people listening, and then,
Yeah.
So we just like to make it accessibility so that they can listen to the first part of the episode. So go ahead and give that a roll. Here we go.
And that's a
10.
A 10. I am actually this one is watchable, so we are all going to be able to take a look at this. This one comes to us courtesy. Let me double check, make sure I said that. I thought earlier it was.
I'm sure it shows.
So it might be a rental, but that's fine. What's a couple of bucks? We're going to watch Brain Scan.
There it is.
And I'm fucking stoked.
I win so much.
I am fucking stoked.
Nice.
So yeah, our movie that we will watch next week is going to be the 1994 movie with I was almost saying I almost said Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which also would have been exciting. But yeah,
honestly,
Edward Furlong.
No offense, probably would have played it better.
Yeah,
I mean he's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, so. So Joe, you started our recommendations out tonight. Are there a couple of extra titles that you want to elaborate on?
And as I mentioned a second ago, a lot of them were mentioned just in regard because
I'm gonna crack another beer while we do this.
Yeah, do that.
Do it up, man.
So Demon Knight, obviously, beautiful horror movie.
I feel like this movie. I'm just gonna yell. I feel like this movie is something that's gonna be brought up a million times.
Oh yeah,
Chris. If in case I can't tell because I'm in the room.
Obviously, Evil of Dead is there. Army of Darkness. Poltergeist, Scream, of course.
Yeah.
And one that I'm gonna go for. I got two more. One that I thought Brad might mention, but maybe obviously didn't. Would be Club Dread. The old Broken Lizard Boys.
That's a comedy horror.
Yeah, I feel like if you wanted to do a comedy horror, that could have been a whole draft on its own.
Well, that's why a lot of these didn't make the. Okay, but then
we did comedy sci-fi, by the way.
But then Bad Taste. Peter Jackson's first movie.
I've not seen it.
That is a very good one. It has a
trauma-esque. It's very.
It has like a.
Joe has a very good, very very long-term good friend who was a roommate for a while who has a stock of these really
shout
good
out Daniel Rintz. Yeah,
nice.
like I literally making this fought things like if it popped in my head because I knew it from Dan, I kind of omitted it.
It has a solid
House
5-minute
2
lawnmower death scene.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so good. But if we're gonna mention Peter Jackson, Bad Taste obviously has to be said if we're doing horror. But The Frighteners, man,
The Frighteners is great.
It's a good movie.
Also
is that
considered a horror comedy.
Michael J. Fox?
Yeah, Michael J. Fox.
So
my honorables.
Nice.
I thought about a lot of these were ones where I was like I put them down and like I toyed with like okay. Are we at a point where these need to be mentioned and I'm assuming that people are just watching them because I'm well aware of them?
Yeah.
And that's things like Alien, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Ring, The Omen, The Exorcist.
Okay.
But then I came across titles I was like, oh man, if there was it was just always toying and moving, like when would I put in the Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter with Sam Neill.
You actually should have brought that. You should have brought that one to the table.
That one should have came up.
That was the one earlier when I was asking whether or not psychological would qualify. That was immediate. I was like, I want to do In the Mouth of Madness. In the Mouth of Madness is a John Carpenter about a lead is a writer who ends up in a town that he wrote about and he thought was fake, and that's as much as I'm going to say, because from there you need to watch the rest of it. Yeah. After that, I'm going to ramble through these because I do want to take a few minutes on this last one. So if you've not seen The Psychic, I recommend The Psychic. I forget which Italian director that was. I was going to slip that one in because it's not quite giallo, and I was going to try. But The Psychic is about a woman who can see her own death from the very beginning of the movie, and then the rest of the movie is her trying. She doesn't realize that she's seeing her own death. She thinks she's trying to save somebody else's death, and chases from there everything that happens and all the clues and all the things that she sees. And she thinks she's crazy. She's like, there's no way this is possible. She goes to her doctor. The doctor's like, I don't know. And then they're saying, but that one is one that I highly recommend. Christmas Evil, if you've not heard of it, is a fucking fun one. It's about the craziest, scariest fucking Santa you ever see.
When it comes to Christmas movies, I'm looking for the most twisted.
This is one of the most twisted. But the title I'm going to land on last, and I do want to take a couple extra minutes because as a gentleman, I didn't put it on the list, but Hostel. So here's my take. Give me 30, 40 seconds.
I am not fighting you on this.
Yeah. So Hostel. Hostel is I did not like it when I first saw it. I thought it was just gore porn, right? And then I watched the second one, and then I went back and I really watched the first one. So the movie, if you're not familiar, is about some Americans who go over to Eastern Europe, and they just want to have the American adventure in Europe, where anything is anything. They got the money, they can do it. So they start laughing about going out meeting girls. They take a stroll through, because I think they maybe stop in Amsterdam, but they go through like a red light district where girls are literally dancing in the window, and you can go choose them like you would choose any red light district. Any game that you would want to buy, like product.
Yeah.
And then the twist is the girls that they hook up with at the hostel drug them. They wake up, and now they are the product. And what I really appreciated about it the second time through was that they weren't being sexually abused, but they were put in a situation that other people found just fine, and because they had the means to make it happen, were purchased and now removed from the freedom of their own life.
Correct.
And were in a struggle for survival. And they don't all make it. And when I saw it through that lens, I understood.
But they pay for the privilege of that, like, risk.
Who paid for that? The victims?
Yeah.
How?
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking a question.
Oh, no, not the victims.
No, the victims don't pay. The victims were drugged and kidnapped.
Yeah.
The victims were drugged and kidnapped and no longer have that choice. So the juxtaposition is they started off their journey thinking it's no big deal to look at any girl and be like, yeah, I'm going to fuck her. And because I'm American and because I can go talk sweet and whatever, I can trick them into bed.
So basically,
then the extreme...
The joke of the Amsterdam...
There's no joke.
Let me finish. The joke of the Amsterdam thing in Sex Drive happens the way they joke. Like, it's just bad.
It's just very bad. It's very bad. It's about losing your freedom and becoming something that you're looked at upon as a piece of meat. Right. And for somebody who doesn't give a shit about you can do whatever they want with you because they've purchased you and you have no say. Correct. And that is what's frightening.
And my point was really to boil it down, like, if you read the fucking menu wrong or wandered into the wrong den on the red light district, like they did in Eurotrip.
No, that's not comedy. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess loosely,
very loosely.
It was their roommates they were fucking that took them away,
sold them out.
Yeah, they got taken to a hostel. Basically, they met these girls at the hostel, and then they went back to the hostel.
Trusting the wrong people.
So, how do I say this without saying this? I'm just going to say it. So I've never been a fan of Eli Roth, just to be clear.
That's fair.
Me either. Aside from his claymation, that was cool.
It's never really
Rotten Fruit.
It's never really spoken to me. And, and anybody that loves him, great. You have your own opinion. I have mine.
Yeah.
I don't like him. You know what I mean? And I
would be careful saying this around Joe, though. He's going to hold it against you.
Okay. No, I'm not, because Green Inferno was shit. How the fuck are there cannibals in Panama is a first world country.
So, once again, I'm just not a fan. And in fact, I've never seen Green Inferno. Like, after Hostel 2...
Brad loved it.
Green Inferno, I didn't love it.
You said you did.
I enjoyed it. But I didn't love it.
Shit.
But like,
I've seen it once in theaters.
I literally
with
went,
me.
we
argued on the ride home.
I literally just went, meh, okay. What else can you do? Because then you did Cabin Fever, or Cabin Fever was before that.
Cabin Fever was his first.
And I still was just
First
like,
feature.
And Cabin Fever actually made me go, oh, this guy might have
like
something.
Cabin Fever.
And
I like the I like the experimental, like the killer being not present.
100%. And Cabin Fever was the only one that I went, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Hostel 2, Green Inferno, Thanksgiving.
Borderlands.
Oh, did he do Borderlands?
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
Oh God. But yeah, going back to like Green Inferno, Thanksgiving.
Now I've heard Knock Knock is okay. Have you seen Knock Knock, the one with Keanu Reeves and
I haven't seen it.
It seemed like light porn, so I just avoided it.
No.
But like
I thought it was better when it was hard candy, I guess.
But yeah, quite honestly,
Hard Candy was brilliant.
Hello. But quite honestly, like he's also kind of a dude, bro. No offense, Eli. I hope you don't hear this and think I'm a douchebag, but like honestly,
yeah, I think that's his downfall. Like I think he's got Quentin Tarantino is somebody that you can like or not like. Like he's widely respected, but at the same time, there are people who are like really, when you think about it, this, that, whatever. Like there's strong opinions on Tarantino, and it's because he is such a cinephile and he's in his own mind.
Correct.
I think Eli Roth is so much in his own mind and he's making what he loves, regardless of what product we end up getting from it. And whether or not we like it or not is irrelevant to him.
Right. Which is don't get me wrong. That's fantastic.
I mean, I'm not standing up for him I think that's
I respect him as a director because honestly, he's done more than most. You know what I mean? Like I give him that, but like
I loved him as the Bear Jew.
Yeah. Oh, the Bear Jew was amazing.
Oh, the Bear Jew was amazing.
But like, I gave Thanksgiving a shot. I was like, you know what?
I haven't even seen it. I'm afraid to.
I was already signed up. I was done with him.
It's not good.
I'm done.
I wouldn't. Just don't.
Yeah.
You're going to be upset. Like, honestly, I literally...
I think I've done fine so far not watching it. It might be one of those things where I'm like, if I want to watch a really shitty movie, and if I'm then surprised that I enjoy it, cool.
And you need to be in that headspace. Like,
this
is going to be a shit movie. I'm just going to turn this on to know that it's cannon fodder.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I enjoyed Cabin Fever. It was an ask for me to do Green Inferno because I did not like the Hostels.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, I just don't like... Like, I know going to movies as a fucking filmmaker, like, yes, there is a level of disbelief that you ask for, but you also have to deliver enough for that disbelief to be easy,
agreed.
Forgivable.
Totally. And I agree.
And there are things that Eli Roth does that are just blatantly, like,
they're just not good.
They're
just not good.
I can't.
You know, and I think, and again, I'm not going to stand up for him, but I think this is just an opportunity.
Green Inferno's in Brazil instead of Panama. I believe cannibals.
Yeah.
I don't believe cannibals in fucking
think this
Panama.
is
Do you know how small Panama is?
Yeah.
It's basically the Cayman Islands. Like, billionaires hide monies in their banks. Like, there's no cannibals.
In early cinema, and probably other medias, but we're talking about cinema. In early cinema, there was a lot you could get away with. Sci-fi, you could get away with a lot. There was these things where you could make your own.
George Orwell.
You could make up your own rules within your narrative.
Damn.
You can write your own rules within your narrative.
Yeah.
Back in 1929 or 19 fucking that's way too far. 50, 60 even.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the knowledge of Panama that you have now. You have access to information. So we're limited on the storytelling. Now I understand what you were saying. Like, again, I'm not defending him.
When the movie came out,
I'm not defending him because when the movie came out, he did. But the alternative sometimes is to make up a country, and that doesn't work for always,
Sure.
So you're supposed to, the idea is that in the forest somewhere beyond, because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't deforestation was part of them going down. So we were supposed to believe that they were so far within the rainforest of Panama that,
Panama's not big enough to get lost in.
Well, but so all the thought process aside, like literally all the logistics and looking at it from that, I genuinely just went, it's Eli
That's
Roth.
where I was.
I don't care.
Did you see Green Inferno?
No.
Oh, okay. So,
but that's what I mean. I genuinely just went,
There were enjoyable parts of it, but overall.
Sure,
but
that's usually what Eli Roth is.
I think back in the day,
actually spring break in Panama.
I think
And
back in
then
the day
run
when I
into
first saw it,
unexistent cannibals.
Right.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was
country.
like,
Totally.
when was the last time you saw something about like a lot of cannibal humans? Like that's what I enjoyed about it the first time. I was like, okay, here's a risk he took.
Well,
like Cannibal Holocaust has been how
and
long?
that's-
There's
and
been
that- I was
other
just about
things
to
since
reference that,
that.
yeah.
Like, it's
It was
say
his
Chile.
It was kind of his like.
There couldn't be
it's kinda
somewhere where
his
there was unexplored
homage.
tip in the
mountain
hat
jungles
Yeah.
to
or-
Cannibal Holocaust.
right.
Which,
And maybe he lacked a little
Great,
bit on a little bit of research, but
and that just to clarify, like the research side of it, that's not why I didn't care to watch it.
well, you just
Or-
don't like Eli Ross. You
I'm
didn't trust
just-
him to tell a good
I'm
fucking
just
story.
Not a fan, yeah.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
I
there
hear
are
that
so many,
too.
there are so many bits and pieces that I'm like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. And then it's like, but the rest of the movie isn't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And maybe that's not him. Maybe that's the editor. I don't know. But quite honestly, his name's the director, and at the end of the day, he holds the ball.
yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
it failed in my opinion, and I'm not a fan. That's just where I land.
Heard.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Pay attention, directors.
I did not get to do my honorable mentions.
Oh, well then, thank you. Thank you. We've
Please
chatted for
do,
so long.
please
Yeah,
do.
please do. Please do. Thank you
To be
for
honest,
stopping me.
Goddamn tangent
Wasting
about
all this
Eli
goddamn
fucking
time.
Ross.
I know. I know.
See what happens when Brad is touched? We got to spend time.
What? So
It's the second time today.
anyway, okay.
I was on fifth, but okay.
So
You would not want to declare that.
my favorite horror film of all time, right?
Mhm.
Favorite franchise, if you will, Nightmare on Elm Street. That's
Right.
the one you were referencing. with
Yes,
Wes Craven.
Freddy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe you didn't bring it up.
It's
but
the
I'm proud of
whole.
you.
It's the whole reason I didn't bring it up.
I did bring
'cause-
him up as iconic villain. Freddy 2 I put.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I mean is like Nightmare is one of those things where everybody's seen it. If
Yeah.
you haven't seen it, and if you are a listener to this and you have not, my God, you better go watch that
And
tonight.
not the 2010 version.
Absolutely not. It's a piece of shit. Don't watch it. There was one thing I liked about it, and spoiler alert, it's the fact that they can daydream, and Freddy shows up in daydreams. That's
I mean, really, that's just at that point blending. Now that I've watched
About
so many
fucking
more of
time.
them, that's blending. That's blending some of the Dream Warriors,
Correct.
anyways.
correct.
Yes.
It's just the fact that they could daydream, which great, and the way they showed it was awesome. But other than that, piece of shit. You already said Texas Chainsaw, Nosferatu.
Oh yeah,
Great
classic.
Nice.
You
Classic.
can't go wrong with
Bela
Nosferatu.
Are you
Lugosi's
excited
my
about the new one?
favorite
I am
fucking
actually.
Me too.
Seeing the trailer, it
Dracula
actually
ever.
they really.
there's a
really-
trailer?
There's a trailer.
Okay, I'll have to watch this.
really
It's
landed.
good, dude. It's sick.
They really landed.
And that's by the guy. That's by the guy who directed The Lighthouse, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And then there's the thing.
Yep.
I mean, how
Yep.
can
How
we not?
can you-
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many times we mentioned if we mentioned it all. So I'm waiting for like the time because I think I either mentioned it on Body Horror or avoided it on Body Horror.
Yeah.
It was definitely on my list.
Yeah.
Because the thing is fucking awesome.
If you
Thing's
don't
great.
want, if you don't want to
It
watch,
should have been. I mean,
if you don't want to watch the '80s version, you can watch Kate Beckinsale in the very.
No, that's a different movie. That's a
horrible.
different movie. No,
Horrible.
no,
Do
it's a
not
different
watch
movie.
that.
That's not a tangent. That's not an equal recommendation.
Don't watch it.
Here's the thing. I don't
Asians
mind the movie.
love
I would have liked to have seen what it
White
was
Out
supposed
was
to be
shit.
when they originally
Shit.
budgeted for
Yeah.
practicals.
Yeah.
I like the cleverness of how they tied them together, but you got to watch the
Oh, you got to watch
Russell
Kurt
fucking-
Russell.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta
I mean,
watch
the
it.
John
beard,
Carpenter.
the beard,
the beard alone.
the beard that could
No,
cut
you got
worse than
you
the
got
face.
the guy who sells you
Nobody
diabetes.
makes music
You
like
got
John
fucking
dun 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 dun. Like it's amazing. Come
yeah.
on. So that's that.
Oh.
And then there is Dracula, Bram Stoker's.
Oh,
One of my faves. One of my faves.
Francis Ford Coppola's.
Absolutely.
What a
Gary
shitty
Oldman,
movie.
baby.
Oh my
No,
God.
fuck, just because Keanu doesn't have an accent, get over it.
Well, he does have an accent, but it's not great.
It's the fucking
It's
wrong
the
one.
worst fucking thing.
Yeah. So all
I take that. That was
I still say it's a
sarcasm. It's not a
recommendation.
shitty movie. I was
It's a great movie with
Trick or
one
Treat.
bad actor.
Trick or
maybe
Treat.
getting a sequel.
I know.
Trick or Treat.
Which
I'm
is amazing.
excited about
And
that.
it should. It was very good. And then last but not least, which
Forgot
should
about
have probably been up on the list, but it is what it is. The original REC, R-E-C, Spanish version.
Okay, yeah. The American version was Quarantine,
Correct. But the original,
and
which is
I've
called
not
REC.
seen the
Jennifer
Spanish version, and I
Carpenter,
hear the
Quarantine.
second one is equally amazing. Have you seen the second one?
REC 2? Yes, it's great.
Yeah, so that's one that
REC
I'm.
3 gets a little weird.
There's a third one. I didn't know there was a third one.
There's a third one. It's weird, but it's fine.
How many did we steal? Just two?
You sure it wasn't
no,
Wreck-It
just-
Ralph?
just one?
Oh, there's Quarantine 2.
There's a
That's why
Quarantine
it's on
2.
a plane, which is
Oh, that's
not,
so that's not even stolen. That's just complete.
Yeah.
Let's fuck the franchise.
It's just fuck the franchise. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then The Shining.
Yeah, I thought about that. It was Joe's weird rules that kept me from talking about that one.
The Shining?
Yeah. The suspense.
You call him my rules. I just typed him. He was sitting right next to me.
Hey, listen, someone's got to take the blame, and he's our guest.
Yeah.
He's our guest.
Yeah, and I have no shame. I will blame the guest. Okay.
All right. So anyway, but yeah, those are my lands. The Nightmare franchise will always be the best.
Love the shit.
We're going to quickly talk about slashers, like real slashers.
Yeah.
Because yes, Freddy is considered in that slasher realm.
I don't consider Freddy personally, like, I'm not going to argue with someone because he's one of the big four.
Right. He's one of the big four, but he's not really in the slasher.
I think
realm.
he
Slasher
separates
before
from.
there were slashers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was all we called
he's
everything
80s.
horror.
He's 80s. There's
He's
not
80s,
even-
bro. I did Bay of Blood. That was 71.
Right.
But also the real
Halloween was 78.
I would say the real star
But
slasher
none of that was mainstream. He was what made it
Well, the
mainstream.
argument could be made, though, for 77's Black Christmas.
That's true, but it didn't become a true franchise.
But it didn't franchise.
Where like Halloween,
and it's a harder one to have conversation. I only recently saw that in the last 2 years.
Where the real one, like Halloween, really was like, okay, we're bringing
That one took it to theaters. It brought teens in, and then you had, from there you had Friday the 13th, you had Nightmare. So that's where those three were married forever.
Correct.
And
they became the.
In the meantime, while all of that was happening, Toby Hooper's fucking
Texas
Leatherface
Chainsaw Massacre.
was dealing with all kinds of legal shit with what's her name, Peggy over in UK and all that shit. So
you make a bitch lose a finger, like.
but it's and that one's also not really a slasher in the same way that these are slashers.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that it obviously is. That's chainsaw's a devastating fucking weapon.
It's gonna make a wicked
But
slash. Yeah.
the
Way worse than a knife or a machete.
the story beats are different in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whereas the teens have a lot more time. We get to learn them and everything, and then all hell just starts to break loose pretty simultaneously.
It's all about the teens.
Whereas
Chainsaw.
Michael's pretty present from the very beginning.
Very beginning. And my favorite of them all is Michael. Michael is my favorite. Like,
what do you like about Michael?
So what I love about Michael...
let me ask this for clarification. Michael, the character versus the Halloween franchise, because Nightmare on Elm Street is your favorite franchise.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But if we're talking about what I consider slashers...
Correct, because
my
we've
favorite,
established Nightmare's not.
Freddy is not.
And Jason is boring.
Jason is boring. I
just stabs
hate Jason.
people.
I hate Jason.
Well, I mean,
you can't even get creative.
I wouldn't say.
Dude, there are some good.
There are some
really great.
There are some good kills.
There's some really great kills, but
overall,
Jason
50% plus is just stabbing and hanging on a tree.
It's the storyline to me with Michael. To be honest, Season of the Witch is one of.
I still want to see that. It's hard to find.
Favorite.
It's hard to find. I'd like to watch
the Halloweens, and it has nothing to do with Michael. And it has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
No, none at all.
But
because
that's also what John.
For our listeners, John Carpenter's original idea for the Halloween franchise was to call things Halloween. Excuse me. And it to be more like he had mentioned, Trick or Treat, an anthology where they're all themed around the idea of Halloween, whether it be taking place at Halloween or not. Does Season of the Witch take place on Halloween?
Yes.
Okay. But it was going to be a different story. But it was the studio and the funders who were like, yeah, but you knocked it out of the park with this Michael fucking guy.
And everybody loves Michael. Go for Michael.
Yeah.
But then there was the chance with Season, so they took the chance. And I love Season of the Witch. It is such a good, fun movie. It's just great.
I really do want to see it.
You need to see it.
And there's some extended things that I was like, oh, because diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
So we have that idea that maybe sometimes you just have to quit so long into a franchise. But I just watched, it's been a year and a half or two.
Yeah.
The Exorcist 3 is a fucking awesome fucking movie.
It's great, yeah.
What a great fucking movie. Not so much horror and exorcism. It was more like a good cop procedural with horror thrown in.
Well, it's
but it was a win for me.
That's like Return of the Living Dead. I mean, it's great. It's a fun movie. But to answer your question about Michael really quick. So Michael, to me, the reason why he scares me is the reason that Rob Zombie killed Michael Myers, in my opinion, is that he's a middle-class kid. There's nothing wrong with him, as far as we know.
What do you mean by, just for clarification, what do you mean by Rob Zombie killed it? Do you like the Rob Zombie movies?
I hate the Rob Zombie
movies. So killed it in a bad way.
Killed in a bad way. So, sorry, I know killed can be good now.
So
I have to explain. So what I love about Michael is, in the original explaining of him, is he just had the devil He just has the devil in him. That's all you know. Like, that's all he explains.
But as time goes on, they start bringing in like the voodoo shit and stuff. Like 4 and 5, they start talking about
Did
like
I ever say I liked that?
No, okay, but I'm just tying it with the lore. I'm just tying it with the lore.
But I'm just saying, Michael from 1 to.
So people, this is the thing I've learned about Halloween, because Halloween has so many different timeline canons. Because you know.
It was forced. It was supposed to be a one-off.
What is Jamie Lee Curtis's character name?
Oh, Laurie.
So Laurie dies. Laurie comes back. Like there's different So and there's different ways where you can connect and ignore certain movies.
Sure.
And so I mean, I guess the Halloween franchise is like a choose your own adventure.
Correct.
Almost
in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because I guess if you don't like one, you can choose another, and not a lot of franchises do that. But it's fucking confusing.
Right. And to be quite clear, like Jason to me was boring. It got boring. Like the first one's great.
How far into it would you say you enjoy?
There is no Jason. It's the fucking mother.
No, we know that. We know that Friday the 13th is the mother. Joe knows that. We know that. But the franchise of Friday the 13th is Jason.
Probably like. I like 2. I like 1. I like 1. I can watch 1 because it's not.
I mean, 1's a classic, and it's not Jason.
2.
It's got some of the coolest fucking kills.
I like 3. 3's fun, at least.
The 3D one is okay.
It's fun.
It's fun. I think for me,
is it my favorite? No.
Yeah, no. It had some better kills.
Yeah, so Manhattan is fun.
I've not seen that. That's the one that takes place all on a boat.
That one's fun, yeah, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. Jason Goes to Hell is interesting, which is like.
And then it starts with like what? Jason X, Jason Goes to Space. Yeah.
But even 4, 5.
5 is the last one with the Corey.
Which one Manhattan is?
4 is the one where Corey.
Manhattan's 6.
Corey Feldman was a main character.
Yeah.
5 was when they reintroduced him because 4 was supposed to be the end of Jason, and then they were like, "Oh, well, I guess we can keep bleeding this."
And my thing is, the only way they made him more interesting was by changing his mask. Like you have Sackhead Jason, you have fucking.
Well, because when you are a mutated survival of drowning, you just craft.
Right, and I'm like, okay. And don't even get me started about the remake, but like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't care that much.
What? Jason Padalecki was in it. Jared Padalecki was in it.
Don't care. And then like,
I don't even remember much of that one.
No. Well, so Jason was mentally handicapped, but could go and build a tunnel underneath Crystal Lake with bell systems.
Oh, wow.
So that's a thing.
Yeah, I watched it once.
Not
I didn't
that I'm
care
saying
for
mentally
it.
handicapped people aren't capable.
No,
I'm just
but
saying
why?
by what the
Why did we need? Why did that
Jason.
need to be Jason's fucking thing?
Right, and that all goes back to the same thing with Michael, like with what Rob Zombie did, where like it's more
made him an abused child.
Yeah, abused child. And
so
his mom's
the fact that there was
which granted he just had to have a place for Sherry Moon.
Yeah, that's
real,
it.
Like
worst fucking actress.
But a stripper.
Yeah,
stripper mom.
Aged out.
So you like the mystery behind Michael as opposed to let's explain it. He came from a sordid home and like life was tough and he just said, okay. Yeah. So I've not watched the Rob Zombie ones in a while, but my original take on it was like John Carpenter's Halloween is fucking dynamite.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's bare bones.
Bare bones.
So I feel like
it was an independent film.
I feel like to redo that in like I wouldn't want a Gus Van Sant Psycho.
You say it in the film, but he still.
So I feel like
to shoot on Panavision.
I liked what Rob Zombie did as far as like, okay, we took what was a simple plot line and elaborated a little bit on it, but I had not seen Beyond 2 when it came to Halloween, right? Okay. So that was the extent. Having seen more since then. I understand what you're saying, and I understand more why people... Now, did you care for at all Halloween 2? A lot of people hate Halloween 1 and liked where Halloween 2, Rob Zombie was like, fuck it, I'll just go ahead and do some things.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion because I've seen it once and I don't remember it.
I watched it. I can't really recant what I remember of it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Because I was already
Halloween
in that.
2 was basically a direct the next day continuation of his Halloween 1 and in no way had any...
Because he wakes up, like, we catch him he's in the insane asylum, right?
No, like,
Or that's Halloween 1 where he's
Yeah,
Yeah.
as a child,
Yeah.
and then he escapes. And
Yeah, what's his
goes
name?
after his younger sister,
Alex
who is now
from
grown, right? And
because when he's grown,
she gets away.
Right.
Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell is his therapist.
Is now the doctor.
You get
right.
what's his name? Danny Trejo and all that. That's all one.
But basically, it's the baby girl that he doesn't kill. He comes back to kill, and she's in the hospital now, and he's around, but she, gets released and gets with her friends, and they go to a Halloween party, and now.
Like I said,
But basically, the two movies are basically one movie. Like it's
that's how the original 1 and 2 were, but it was
Which is I love what they do with the original 1 and 2. Like
I do.
It's fantastic. Like
and I
end
enjoy
up at the hospital and
what Rob
you're
Zombie
on the ride
did,
for what Michael's going to do at the hospital.
It's a corruption of the original story.
Yeah, I think I have to look at them. Like if I look at them as separate movies from the lore, I enjoy them.
I enjoy them
because
all.
I think they were fun. Like there were elements about them that I liked, whereas there are some other horror movies that have been redone where they're just like Friday the 13th, where I don't even fucking remember Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't care. Like
they picked the wrong guy to play Freddy.
I think they got the wrong makeup artist.
I agree with that too, because he really
he looked like a burned frog.
That's all. Like it was not. It was not Freddy.
Well, I don't want to spend.
The guy who played Rorschach barely has a nose, so to burn up a nose that's not there and not put.
I'll be honest. The weird rapey shit for a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, they wouldn't make a decision. Like that was the problem. It was like, was he raping these kids or was he just a good guy? Like they kept doing this and this and this and not making a decision.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck, guys? Make a decision.
He was supposed to be a little special and treat the kids a little too closely because he wasn't actually adult, and then the parents burned him for being simple.
But then at the very end of it, he's like, "Oh no,
I definitely fucking raped them.
I was raping kids," and you're like, "What? Like, wait a minute, like."
Mm-hmm.
It was
the
just one
whole
of those things
time
where
it
it's
has
like,
not been this.
Yeah,
what happened?
it was just terrible storytelling. Like it just was not strong enough to make.
Ultimately, destroyed the opportunity for them to have a sequel.
Absolutely.
Not that we needed one, but it did.
Yeah. Well, and same thing with the Friday 13th series.
Like I like that actor, like the guy who played Rorschach.
Yeah, I want to see. I can't remember James Earl or something.
England, right? Like, he's just not Robert
Jackie Earl
Haley.
Something.
Yeah,
like
Jackie
that.
Earl Haley. Yeah. Well, we're gonna say goodbye. We've kind of gone. I actually think this has been a great conversation, so I don't necessarily want to rush it out. But at the same time,
but you guys went on a hell of a tangent.
We did, and I'm happy about that. So, Chris, before we say goodbye,
because you're not happy when I do it.
We stayed on focus.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have any projects or anything that you want to promote that are available to watch or something to look out for?
What's that new Cheetah Bang Bang?
Yeah, so right now I just finished 2 projects that I can't really talk about.
Mm-hmm. I don't want the letters.
Yeah, there is one that is coming out it's going into festivals. It's called In Betweening. I co-DP'd
In Between? In Betweening.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a dark comedy.
Excellent.
It's really great. By my buddy, director Milhouse. He's really great. Definitely keep your eyes out for that. It's definitely getting some festival run, which is going to be fun. And then my new movie, which we are working on right now, hopefully shooting in November, called Seasoned Killers. It is a dark comedy horror film. And when I say it's a dark comedy horror film, it is dark as fuck. So
right up my alley, baby.
I'm just telling you right now, be ready. Hopefully soon we will have more details about that. But yeah, it is.
Yeah, I hope so too.
It is rocking and rolling.
That sounds fascinating, Chris.
We're making some moves.
That sounds very interesting.
Yep.
I would love to learn more.
Absolutely. Click here to learn more.
Click here to learn more.
Yeah, keep me posted,
so if any of our listeners want to, I feel like we failed to actually mention what you do, running off the fact that we've had you on here before. What is it you do with within the film industry?
So I kind of span the world, but
what's your focus?
Most of my focus is at directing and assistant directing. That's normally what I do. So I play in the world of G&E.
So that's where you got your start.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
We preach the versatility. Like, have a couple of things that you want to do.
It's not a bad thing to have. I mean, because look at it realistically.
Hey, listen, white space on the calendar is sad, and it makes me cry.
And look at this reality. Like, I went the Cameron approach. I wanted to learn whatever. As a director, I want to know.
You get in the industry and you learn a field, and that's where you start. And then you realize, well, maybe like that's more for me, and you redirect yourself.
Well, and
you fit better as an AD for a while. Now you're leaning towards directing. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
So if you don't want to be a stranger, there's no need to force it out. But if someone wanted to get a hold of you or follow you in your work, where would they find you?
So I'm on Facebook as Christopher Warren. Look for the Hannibal Lecter mask on my face. Still there.
You can update those.
I know I can, but you know what? That's a really great photo.
It is a really great photo.
So, and it kind of gets the point across.
Well, and you can think about that and just come off the top of your head, the Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah,
if you change it and then say that shit.
I mean, there is a picture of me and my wife, but I people don't know who my wife is.
You have really nice eyes, and
through
the mask hides the rest of your face.
But they accentuate my eyes. They accentuate these beautiful blinkers.
Damn
Very
right.
handsome, man.
So, and then on Instagram, I'm going to check it again because this happens every time.
C-War 2 R's.
C-War 2 R's, and I believe it is 5-4. Let me confirm that. It is CWARR 5-4. That is how you...
No underscore, no space. CWARR 5-4.
That whole thing.
Thank you, Chris. And
sounds like a gun that you can't buy without a license.
Or fire off on a set without being approved by fucking armorers.
And me.
Unless you're Alec Baldwin.
And
Damn
yourself.
right. Damn right. Better hand that thing to me.
Too soon.
Joseph, how can people find you online?
Chaotic_artisan on the Instagrammas. Joseph Sheldon Quick anywhere else. That's my name. So
Don't wear it out.
Yeah.
Oh,
brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
It's a lot better than I didn't say it. So thanks, guys. Thanks for taking that shovel out.
Hey, listen, I will take that. Listen, low-hanging fruit. If you don't grab it, it goes rotten.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right? You might as well eat it while it's fresh.
Damn right. Damn right. And you can follow me on Instagram at Beeford Clark. You can follow the show at ufostudio.detroit on Instagram, or look up Unorthodox Film Podcast on Facebook. We have a website, ufpodcast.podbean.com. All the links will be available in the show notes at the website. You can go to our UFO Bazaar. If you want to support the show, you can get mugs, cups, and other things that we put together. My favorite is still the Thank the Crew shirt. If you are somebody who appreciates movies or work in the industry, by buying the Thank the Crew shirt, you are showing your support for the people behind the camera who rarely get that light and appreciation. And I tell you what, without them, we wouldn't have the wonderful movies that we get to watch every day.
Amen, brother.
So thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Church.
Adios.